And we are live. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Super Bowl Sunday, the stochastic Super Bowl extravaganza, leading you all the way up to kickoff. My name is Matt Savoca, and we've got my friend Terry McBride here today, breaking down Super Bowl 57, Chiefs and Eagles. Should be a fantastic one. 51-point total. Terry, how are you feeling this Sunday? You getting ready? Getting excited? And how are you guys doing in chat? What's up, man?
But it's good to be here with you, first of all, kicking off our Super Bowl coverage, which is great. It's been, I wasn't on a ton of football shows this year, so I'm psyched to be here for football on Super Bowl Sunday and get the big call, get the tap for this show. Psyched to talk through some of these no-house props. But yeah, most of all, I'm just kind of excited for this game. It's been, for me, I know you love football and you've got the passion and the fire still for football. We were talking about that a little bit before the show. For me, this was a slog of a season. I feel like I absorbed too many of those just crappy Thursday night games. I watch Sundays on Red Zone, and that's always great because Red Zone jumps around and everything. But just watching one game at a time this year, in some ways, was kind of rough with some of those primetime games. I'm looking forward to one game, really, really enjoying this one. I'm looking forward to a great game today. So I think we're going to get it. I'm psyched about today. I'm psyched to be here. So should be a good one.
It should be a good one. And yeah, it really does. The NFL as an entertainment product, obviously, when you put Rihanna at halftime, it gets a little bit better. But the quality of play is really what makes the game. And I really hope that these two teams are certainly capable of playing an all-timer tonight. I think it could happen here. Right now, the Eagles favored as the proverbial home team. A 26.25 point total compared to KC at 24.75. We'll probably see that move in a little bit in the hours leading to kickoff. But speaking of kicking off, we're starting with the No House Advantage show. And we have a reason we start this first half hour as we get into the afternoon and into the evening that we start here, because not only do we have fantastic tools over at Stochastic, optimal lineup tools, optimal projections, things to help you take down both the versus the house mode, which is more like standard prop betting, and the pick'em mode, which is a little bit closer to DFS with a prop best twist. We got tools to help you win it, and we've got special Super Bowl action for you, like Patrick Mahomes over on the versus the house side. He's sitting at 1,000.5 yards. Terry, how do you feel about over or under 1,000.5 yards for our boy Patrick Mahomes?
I was talking about that one on a basketball show the other day with Neil Orfield, our pal, and I am really confident Patrick Mahomes is going to at least double that total today. He is going for 2,000 yards in this game. Yeah, I think we confidently take the under on 1,000 yards there and thank them very much for that pick and walk away with it. Nice little promo there.
That is a lot of fun, and it's essentially a free square. No, we do not expect double the most passing yards that have ever happened in a Super Bowl to happen. As good as Patrick Mahomes can play, I don't think we're getting there. So $35 max bet, one per user, and you can also still get the $100 first match deposit bonus available to you as a new user when you click the link in the video description below. It really is an awesome platform, an awesome time to get started, especially because we've got the new Pick'em Pro over at Stochastic as well. Not only do we have optimal lineups for the Pick'em games, but now we've got these great new tools over at Stochastic you can check out. Now, it is for the NBA, which makes a little bit of sense since this is the last meaningful football game for several months. But guys, if this is a sign of what's to come for tools that go along with No House Advantage, now's a great time to get into the action over at Stochastic. Let's dig into this one. I believe we got 14 players on the board in the Pick'em contest. When you go over to the versus the house side, you do have more options. But we're going to go for the big money and narrow it down a little bit. Talk about these Pick'em contest players a little bit more. So let's start with the quarterback position. Patrick Mahomes moves up to 292.5 passing yards as a prop line today, 2.5 passing touchdowns, and 0.5 interceptions. That is up from the conference championship round, and he's playing arguably the toughest defense he's faced in this entire playoffs.
Yeah, tough spot. I mean, we're talking about the apex quarterback in the league going up against potentially the apex passing defense in the league this season. So it's a really interesting combination. Mahomes has succeeded very frequently going over 300 yards a number of times against top-ranked passing defenses. So it's not like we're expecting him to fail because it's a tough D. But I do think, we can have some expectation of shaving down some of the numbers a little bit. And when we look at some of these numbers, the passing touchdowns, the line at 2.5, we've got them projected at 1.9. So we're calling that basically 70% to go under. That's one of our stronger unders on the board. And if we look across the course of the entire season, Mahomes got over the 2.5 line 8 times in the 17 starts. So it's not like he's doing it every single time out. It is a reliable guy, but he hasn't gotten there in the 2 playoff games they've played so far. And now he's going up against a more stout D. So I do like that one to go under. I do think Patrick Mahomes can throw a couple touchdown passes. Don't get me wrong, but we're asking him for 3. And it's also a team that's been, they've got some ability at running back. They've got multiple headed running back now, so they can give different looks from the running back position. I just think there's a lot of probability if they get down near the goal line, get down in the, inside the 10, you might see the ball on the ground a little bit more in a Super Bowl format. So I like the under on the touchdowns. The yardage is also an under. It's a fairly strong under as well, 63.5. I like that a little bit less. He got over it 10 times. The line set at 292.5. So we're asking him for 293 yards. He did clear that 10 times. He's done it once out of the 2 playoff games. Again, stout defense. He's also got some banged up receivers. So we've got that question mark. It is a fairly strong under, but if I'm picking between those 2 unders, I'm taking the touchdowns under every time, I think.
I think that's fair to say. And let's just bring up the elephant in the room, Terry. A lot of these stat lines for all these players in all positions look a little bit inflated today. I think it could be the fact that we're trying to get a little bit more action. It's the Super Bowl. People get excited about the idea of lots of scoring, lots of yardage, lots of everything. But look, as I was going through the show sheet, adjusting from the conference championship round to this round, everyone was moving up in what looks like a possible tougher game environment. I'm not saying the shootout potential is 0, not at all. But if you look at our optimal lines over at Stokastic.com, it's just littered with unders. In fact, the best over we have isn't even available on the pick'em side. I was just looking before. Right now, they don't have Kadarius Toney, who we do like over 1.5 receptions. Not available on the pick'em side, but he is available versus the house. I digress. It's still a situation where if you want to do a little game theory, go ahead.
Is Juju Smith-Schuster's reception still up there?
He is,
because when I update, okay, that one is still there. When I updated earlier, that was my highest over. That one's 72.1% on his over 2.5 receptions.
I would put that personally a little bit lower, but I still have it as a plus EV bet. Yeah, that's another good over as well, but no one really on the Philadelphia side, especially on the receiving side. So how does that translate to your opinion on Jalen Hurts' line here? Obviously he can get things done on the ground as well. For Hurts in the passing game, we have him at 248.5, again, up from last week, 1.5 touchdowns, a little bit more reasonable, and again, 0.5 receptions. Anything stand out to you there?
Yeah, so we're calling that basically a coin flip on the yardage, which is interesting. 248.5. We've got him projected for 241.3. So we've got him right there. Looking at the season long numbers, he got over that number 5 times during the regular season, hasn't done it in the playoffs. And when we're looking at his numbers, he's dropped from an 8 yards per passing attempt to just 6 yards per passing attempt in the last handful of games since he came back from injury. So that's a little bit concerning if you're chasing that yardage over. So I kind of think that maybe we could play with that one. It's the bottom ranked one out of his props, though. None of his are over 60%. The top ranked one is his interceptions over at 56.8%, or excuse me, his interceptions under at 56.8%. We're saying he's not going to throw a pick 56.8% of the time. I don't love any of the Hurts ones here, but I do think that yardage one is at least interesting despite being a mathematical coin flip, just based on recent performance and based on, the situation. I think they might keep the ball on the ground a little bit more too. And if you play into that game script of a lower scoring game than maybe the public is expecting, and you're trying to look for some of these unders, I think maybe that gets a little bit interesting on that under. So the yardage is the one that would interest me the most despite the math on it. But I don't really love any of the Hurts ones that I'm looking at here.
Okay, that's an interesting one for me, because I think one thing that could happen is the Eagles offense, it shows up in their normal range of outcomes, not at the high end, which means they're probably getting to the end zone 2 to 3 times. And we saw some variance go towards the running back position over the course of the playoffs. And I think maybe over 1.5 passing touchdowns is a way to play this. I realize we got to move on. We only got till 25 after the hour here. So let's talk about these receiving cores for a little bit. I mean, look, we could start with the Kansas City side. It's all about Travis Kelce, but he's at 7.5 receptions. that makes me feel incredibly uncomfortable, even if I know Mahomes is going to lean on him. 80.5 yards. Let's start there. And then we'll go into Juju Smith-Schuster, who we expect, to be the number 2 receiver today.
Yeah, I think that's a fair expectation. You know, he was dealing with the knee injury, but he got a few full practices in. Seems like he's good to go. And typically that's a faster recovery than what Kadarius Toney's dealing with, for example. So I expect if between the two of those guys, I expect Juju to be the more healthy of the two. But yeah, looking at Kelce here, the 7.5 receptions, we've got him 62.9% likely to go under that, but we've got him projected at 6.7. It's not like we've got him far off. That's not a huge gap. Looking at the numbers, 12.5 targets per game in the playoffs, 8.9 targets per game during the regular season. So the targets during the playoffs have been
target number. My goodness,
right? That is a lot of targets. So I mean, there are plenty of looks for him to get to that 7.5. And if we're thinking about the format, the game, the situation, and all these different things that I don't necessarily like to bring into my DFS process, I could kind of bring that into the prop betting process here. Of I do think they're going to be looking Travis Kelce quite a bit in a Super Bowl format here. So I just think there's plenty of targets here, plenty of looks, plenty of catches. I don't dislike that target one at all. So I kind of, it's 62.9%. I think that's one I might, despite the number on the under, I think I might chase that as an over and take the target and just take the upside for Travis Kelce receptions there. The under on the yardage is interesting as well. If you're taking the over on the receptions, it doesn't necessarily make sense to chase the under on the yardage. But as an individual pick, I do think, 54.9% to go under on the yardage. I think you can probably take both of those together and say, all right, we're going to ignore the numbers on the over, take the over on the receptions, and the yardage will go along with it. So I like the Kelce overs there, just, situationally. I'm going to lean against our projections a little bit there.
You get one is what I said on these shows leading up to the Super Bowl with Jeff. You
Fair.
Get one.
And I've banked a bunch of them. I don't do that a lot.
Yeah, well, we should probably add the caveat, which is leaning on the stochastic tools and projections and percentages is probably a good long-term betting goal.
And you wouldn't see me do, 62.9%. That's about the upper limit of something where I'm going to say, hey, let's get away from the projections. And with No House, you do see a lot of that. It's less so today because we've only got the one game and a limited number of props. But like if you're playing No House for the NBA, we see these win rates in the 90s and the 80s and stuff like that. And those are ones that we're just saying, hey, lock those into your cards. And we're talking about maybe where to put them in relation to game theory on your card. So unlike me to disagree with the numbers here, but I kind of like that one.
Now, we've got MVS and Juju sitting at, I believe, identical lines of 42.5 yards and 2.5 receptions as I check this. But if they are sitting at the exact same, do you have a preference? What would you put as a higher confidence? And are you going over or under? Or are you working with both players?
Yeah, so that Juju over, again, assuming full health, he had sprained the knee, but we've got the practices in. So assuming full health for Juju here, 2.5 is the line there. We're looking for 3 catches out of him. He got over that number 13 times during the regular season out of his 16 games. So that's a pretty frequent over to hit. The issue there is his volume was down a little bit before this injury that he was dealing with in that last game. So you do have that question mark. His volume had dropped to a decent amount, under 10% target share the last handful of weeks of the season. So it's a little bit concerning there, but we're only asking him for 3 catches. I don't think that's out of the range of possibility here. So I like that one at 72.1% to go over, leading the way there. And then if we're looking at the other ones, his receiving yards for Juju, 42.5 receiving yards. We've got him projected at 43.1 and just basically calling it a coin flip to go under. If we're saying he's going to go over, I don't know that over is enough receptions at just 3 catches carrying us over to really carry that beyond 42.5 yards to say that that's like a super strong correlation there. So I'd probably leave the receiving yards on the table, just focus on the receptions for him. And then the under on receiving yards for MVS, 42.5 is the line. We've got him projected 34.8. He has been seeing the depth of target for this team. He's seen an uptick in targets as they've gone away from Juju over that period of time. They went to MVS a little bit more. So I do like him to see some deep looks. I like him as a DFS play, but I do think I would follow the math on this one. 67.3% to go under. He got there 8 times during the regular season, once already during the playoffs, but 42.5, it feels about right with our projection of about 35 yards for him. So I'll take the under on the MVS one.
And it's just a volatile player is what we know about MVS, is that when he shows up, he's capable of showing up in a big way, which he's done in the playoffs. hats off.
And we like that for DFS purposes too.
And Eric Lindquist, who is calling it all season long, finally got his wish just about 17 weeks too late. But it is a player that I tend to bend towards the under, especially when that variance has swung up the other way for the last few weeks. And then our projections also are in line with that. That's pretty much how I'm playing it as well. Hey, before we go over to the Philadelphia side on the receiving end, I got to tell you guys that we launched our first sport-specific YouTube channel today. The Odd Shopper Golf channel is live. Don't forget to check out that new channel, Odd Shopper Golf. I mean, we have all of our regular golf content over there with our crew of golf analysts, including Ben Raza. This is what it says. Former Iowa State golfing legend, Eric Supershank Lindquist, Eytan Shander, and more. They're all going to be there. It's going to include betting picks, parlay choices, course and player analysis, one and done picks, and more. Link is in the video description. Hit that subscribe button to know when all the content goes live. And if that's a little bit of effort for your 1 p.m. hour, if you're on the Eastern Coast, then maybe just hit the like button here or subscribe to this channel as well. It goes a long way. It really does help us out. And when new channels do start, showing them some love, of course, helps them out tremendously. So the algorithm gets to know them as you guys do.
That's right. Need those clicks and those likes and those subscribes, guys. Come on.
They know what to do. And I know we got a heavy hitter lineup today. We got, Eytan, Loughy, and Ben later. Then we got the deeper dive with Loughy, Ben, and Alex. Loughy sliding over into the host chair. And then the live before lock crew, Eric and Matt, the law firm. It's going to be a great afternoon. But I think they can hit their like button now as we get going here.
Yeah, we get them started early here, but I actually meant for the new channels that you were just referring to, for the new golf channel. Like, get over there and make sure you're liking that, subscribing. I was supporting your point about supporting new channels.
It's all about the support here, and we do appreciate you guys a whole lot. Thanks for hanging out.
What a pro! Dynamite transition.
Yeah, multiple hours before the big game. All right, let's talk AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, who had an incredible catch that shouldn't have counted last week, but 75.5 yards is AJ Brown's line. They're both at 5.5 receptions. It almost feels like they're kind of egging you on to look at Devonta Smith 65.5 yards as a maybe an over. How are you feeling about these big two in Philadelphia on the receiving side?
Yeah, I mean, we've got, looking down this list, everything is looking under except for the Dallas Goedert over and the Quez Watkins over on their receiving yards. And both of those are in the low to the mid 50s. So I don't love any of these guys to really get it done as far as our projections go. AJ Brown is a guy that I do trust for big game upside. He's a guy that I've enjoyed playing throughout the season as far as DFS goes. But if we're looking at the numbers, 5.5 receptions, he only got there 5 times during the regular season and did not get there yet in the playoffs. We didn't see them have to really, put the pedal to the metal last week by any means. So you take that with a grain of salt a little bit with some of these Philly passing stats for this week. But yeah, based on what they did in the regular season, despite having a very nice year, it wasn't there. So I think we can safely take that. It's a 64% probability for him to go under that 5.5. Nobody's saying it's a lock by any means, but if we're chasing the numbers, I think that one makes sense to take the under on AJ Brown. And you can play the same thing, the same game with the Devonta Smith one. His volume's been up a little bit. He got over this one 8 times during the regular season too, and he's done it once already during the playoffs. He's been leading the team in target share and getting a decent amount of volume and a decent amount of air yards here. So I like Devonta Smith. If I was picking between the two, I think I would take the AJ Brown under and leave the Devonta Smith one. Not saying take the over, but I think I would just leave the Devonta Smith one on the table. I like it a little bit less.
Like, it's too close to call based on our projections, whereas the AJ Brown under 5.5 receptions, especially, we're talking about, 2/3 of the time. And anytime we can get to, from the 50%, that coin flip mark, to a 66, 70% mark, that is a huge difference in probability. It might not sound like much, but it is a, astronomical amount. So I do think AJ Brown right now sitting as the 3rd best line for the Eagles on our NHA optimal tool. Does look like one that I'm probably going to lean on as a high confidence bet in the pick'em contest as well. Smith, I kind of feel the same way. Now, Quez Watkins is kind of interesting. The speedster only has a 14.5 yard prop, which he could do in one catch. So you're kind of asking, like, does he break one play open? That one seems kind of interesting to me. more so, I would say, than his 1.5 receptions, which I would lean under, but kind of leave alone mostly. That 14.5 yarder going over does seem like one, our tools, and I like myself.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing with Quez Watkins here. We're basically, like you said, he can easily do this in one catch. And if you watch him get one catch early in the game, you better hope that he's gotten there, because that might be his only catch throughout the game. Looking through the regular season, 3 targets a game during the regular season, a half a target in the playoffs so far. A very small 6.9% target share. Nice. Not. Well done. Not a ton of volume here, but definitely a guy who can get himself open, can get deep, and one connection is all you need, like you said. So it is a 54% on the over. It's getting close to coin flip territory, but if I am taking one side of a gun to my head, is Quez Watkins going to get to that one? I think I do lean toward the over there. So not a lot of love for that pick, but I do think the over is the right move if you're a Quez Watkins fan out there.
And then as we transition to the running backs, which, we've got a couple more on the board, Dallas Goedert continues to become a bigger factor once again in this Philadelphia offense. Clearly healthier than he's been for a long time. He sits at a pretty modest 48.5 yards and 4.5 receptions. Once again, our tools will say under. What is the possibility that he breaks open a big game here? Because those stats aren't crazy. It's just that our tools don't really love it. They see it closer to a coin flip.
Yeah, I probably, if you had asked me to put a percentage on those blind, I probably would have put them a little bit north of where we've got him. I would have said, low 60s probably for the receptions. It's a 4.5 line. He got there 6 times during the regular season. He's got there both times during the playoffs. And like I said, that was the second playoff game. It was not really a game where they really had to be, aggressive in it by any means. So I kind of like that one. We've got it 58% to go under the 4.5, but it's a 4.1 projection. Right. We're projecting him basically for that amount of catches. So I kind of like that one. It wouldn't be one that I would play aggressively, across all of my cards if I was entering a bunch of times or as my highest confidence pick. But I think I would probably play with that one. It might be one to take on both sides. If you're making multiple cards, just take both sides of that one and run it that way. But I do think that one's kind of interesting based on just where we've got it projected. I know the math says 58% to go under, but we've got him right there. And he's going to be a key part of this offense.
Yeah. And if you look at the one thing I will say is that the Kansas City Chiefs over the course of most of the regular season struggled more against the wide receiver position. However, it does actually look like they figured things out in the secondary to a certain extent, which might mean that there is now a little bit of space over the middle for Goedert to operate. That's just more of a game narrative than our stat projection thought, but I thought it was worth throwing out there.
That makes a ton of sense. I mean, if they're going to be pulling coverage from somewhere else to fill out where they were weak, it's got to come from somewhere, and it's probably going to come from something they were doing well. So I like that theory.
And I'd rather lose 10 or 12 yards to Goedert than 35 to Smith or Brown any day. We got just a few minutes left, and we got 4 running back bets to look at in the Pick'em contest. Pacheco and McKinnon are going to be complicated by CEH, possibly. And we got Sanders, Gainwell as well on the Philadelphia side. Pacheco is at 50.5, McKinnon at 24.5. Either one of those bets, under or over, stand out to you, and then we'll go over to Philadelphia to close things out.
Yeah, I was looking at both of those on the under before we got the news about CEH being officially, in this game. So I think those just even get stronger. Right now, we're looking at McKinnon 24.5. We've got it 69.5% likely to go under. He got there 3 times during the regular season, once during the playoffs. We know that, it's just going to be a matter of explosiveness, but the volume isn't really there. It's not the most predictable volume in the world. The last handful of weeks of the regular season, he was seeing a little bit more of an uptick in snaps and in touches, but that's really come down again. So I really don't hate that one. I think we can take the under on his rushing yards at 24.5. We've got him projected.
What about this Philly side? We got Sanders and Gainwell. Sanders at 60.5. He looked like the dude last week, but Gainwell is the one who's leading the team in EPA per play right now. Had a touchdown. Look, I think 19.5 over seems kind of interesting, even though Sanders is going to get probably the most touches at the running back position of any player.
Yeah, I think on volume, Sanders with getting the most touches is the expectation there, but the explosiveness for Gainwell is definitely interesting. It is 66.2% likely for him to go under based on our numbers. But again, it's a one where we're projecting him for 17.2 yards and the line is 19.5. That's just a couple touches for this guy. And that's just in the range of variance, right? Whether he gets an extra couple of yards on any individual carry, and an explosive guy like that we've seen really take the ball to the house a number of times. I kind of like that one to go over. So we're playing with fire with a lot of our going against the math on our projections here. I do think the Miles Sanders under 60.5 is very, very strong though. That's our strongest win rate on the board, 76.3% up at the top of the board. We've only got him projected for 48 yards. He's lost 2 touches a game basically in the playoffs. He was at 16.4 for the regular season, 14.5 for the playoffs so far. I like that one to go under. So that's our strongest pick overall. And I agree with it pretty solidly.
By far, if you look at percentages, almost 3/4 of the time in our simulations is Miles Sanders going under that 60.5 rushing yards mark. All right, we got to get out of here, Terry. But before we do, I need your score prediction. Final score of the Super Bowl. Who wins and what's the score?
Oh, wow. Let's go for a 27-24 Chiefs.
All right, I'm going
last minute field goal to win it.
29 Chiefs. So we both have KC taking this.
Yours is a more interesting score though. Mine's just super basic score.
For Terry and of course for Jordan behind the glass, stick right here. Thanks for getting us over 100 likes. We've got a great afternoon of coverage leading up to Super Bowl 57. For Terry and Jordan, I'm Matt. We'll see you guys later.
Yo, it's that time of week again. We're back to induct you fine people into the Hall of Fame right here at Stokastic.com and give out some Stokastic Plus Platinum memberships, $120 value. All you need to do to get involved, get yourself up here, get the free month, is go to Stokastic.com/avatar, download the avatar, use it wherever you play. And when you win, finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. Tweet your wins at Stokastic HOF on Twitter, at Stokastic Hall of Fame. Get your free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum, and I'll induct you right here every single week. And we got some great ones today, kicking it off with Mike Jasbeck. Yet another reason why Stokastic DFS is the best of the best. Tools are second to none. They provide absolute best content out there. Shout out to all the guys who do the live shows. Keep the amazing content coming, fellas, and thanks for all you do. $20,000 win, second place in the Thursday NBA shot. Great way to kick this one off. But also, how about Avi? Avi's always hanging out with us, been kind and generous with his super chats over the years. We appreciate you. I know who you are, man. Thanks for the tips. Biggest win of my life, $20,000, another second place in the NBA shot. And then you got our boy Greg Ehrenberg going back to back. Spent most of the night complaining about DFS slate, turned the games off to go to bed, woke up to find the slate actually wasn't bad. $5,000. How about that? First place in the NBA shot. And then Greg Ehrenberg again. The people who thought I could only win with 600 lineups are in shambles. I came in first in a 20 max entry contest last night with only 40 lineups. What are the haters going to say this time? Shout out to our boy Greg. You'll see him right after this on Live Before Live. And then Smitty, 1,850, a very simple man, at Stokastic Hall of Fame. Nice win there, man. Matt Fukuda at Stokastic actually ran good tonight. Thanks, Greg and Neil and the entire Stokastic crew. $1,600 win over there on DraftKings. Shout out to you, Matt. And also to Zachary Williamson. Stat correction placed me above a 7-man train. $500 swing. Took second place in the end one. That's huge. Followed up by Kenny Herron. Shout out to the entire Stokastic team, but especially Josh Ingeman. Josh getting the personalized shout out for the process show. Yep, 6:30 a.m. Monday through Friday. And Greg killing it every day on Live Before Live. Give me that free month. You got it, brother. First place in the hot shot, $750. And then how about we've got Jim McCorkle. I love the tools and the shows. I'm really starting to see the results. Almost got to the top of the mountain. It's been a while. Thanks to Stokastic. Hey, still enough to get you in the door. 252nd in the NHL hip check. Followed up by Pete Prado. Holy crap, on the first day I purchased and used the lineup generator. You guys rock. So $30 win here, but guess what? $120 subscription. Free. and inducted in the Hall of Fame for Pete here. Four times what he just made on that. But look at it, lineup generator, first day. Throws some entries into the quarter jukebox and takes down first place. Great stuff, Pete. And Pedro, I love seeing this. The NBA Bet Pro tool is brand new. The first week is entirely free. Pedro says, thanks to Kasich. Hit this parlay last night. Best tool in the game is NBA Bet Pro. 51 in the 720, 4-leg parlay. And then Pedro hits us with another one. NBA Bet Pro on point. Thanks to Kasich. $10 into $1,600 parlay. What are we looking at? 7 legs in that one? Yeah. Gotta love it, man. Gotta love it. And we close it with the professor. Trust the projections. Thanks to the team. Solid win during a little fantasy slump. This dude just went on an absolute tear with the parlays. Shout out to the professor and everybody else. Welcome to the Stochastic Hall of Fame. You've now been inducted. Collect your free subscriptions for the month. And remember, download the Stochastic Avatar. It's stochastic.com/avatar. Tweet your wins at Stochastic HOF, and we're rocking.
You know, Teddy wasn't around in 2017, so this is pretty big in our household here. Yes, the Philadelphia Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl, but my favorite bet is each team to kick 1 field goal in the first half. That's it. That's plus 155. That's all you need. Look, even Teddy is on board. Even Teddy knows the Philadelphia Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl. 1+ field goal each first half. Plus 155.
What's up, everybody? Off to get some delicious breakfast, but before I eat, I want to tell you, best bet of the Super Bowl, A.J. Brown. First touchdown, you can find it 10-1 out there in the market, of course. Enjoy the game, have fun. Talk to you guys soon.
So I heard you were looking for some long shot Super Bowl props. If the Chiefs are playing in any game, you know what name's coming out of my mouth. The same one you've been hearing all of 2023. The same guy who's been putting money in your pockets all 2023. Isaiah Pacheco, the human credit card payment. We've been taking those rushing props. We've been taking those receiving props. I'm going to combine them. Go rushing and receiving and bumping it all the way up. Don't you know? Bump it up. Isaiah Pacheco, 125 plus yards. That's going to get you plus 800. And if you're looking for a nice way to go into the offseason,
Too. This is gonna be a long show for me. I'm rooting for Philly too, and I'm already annoyed.
You see my tweet from earlier today?
No.
Just said it's gonna be misery and pain, and I'm not gonna enjoy a single second of this game.
You're not gonna enjoy a single second of this game. That mic was hot, Loughy. Oh shit!
I'm telling
Look what we have here.
Crippling anxiety.
Well, I don't. As you can
Of
tell
course you don't.
right now, I don't have anything but elation. I've already played this game out in front of my head, in front of my family the last 2 weeks. So everybody knows in my household how I think this thing's going down. Loughy, Raza, Jordan producing. I'm Eytan. All of us have solo, individual, one name names. It's perfect for that. Welcome to the Odd Shop on the Mothership, the DFS channel. You already know, thumbs up, subscribe. We invite you to check out all our other channels, including and not limited to the Odd Shopper golf channel that's out there, because the NFL is about to be over. Fellas, we have a lot to talk about. We have a lot to inform people about. I can't stop thinking about what happened in 2017, and I'm already there. So I'm going to be as obnoxious as possible today. But Ben, isn't that interesting that two people in the same city, probably 10 miles max from each other, have completely different feels about this football game?
Yeah, you know, first things first, and this is no joke, with your obscene background, I didn't even notice the thing on your head until like within the last 10 seconds, because it just blended in to the nonsense that's going on. But yeah, big day for you guys in your city. I'm a little more relaxed, just watching this as a, you know, from a betting standpoint. No stake in the game on a personal level. You both seem pretty prepared though, having done some shows with you this week.
Did Eytan really just open the show with, we all go by one name and just use his first name and your last name, like your Meatloaf or something?
Well, yes, because nobody, if I just say Ben, then they thinking like, that's Raza, man. Like the whole DFS, the people that don't know me only from the Odd Shopper are like, who the hell is this guy disrespecting Raza? So that's why. I
get you. I still call him Ben. I never call him Raza. But
you're one of the few people. Like no one in my normal life calls me by my first name.
Yeah, it's odd. But you know, by the way, everyone already shitting on me in chat. Yeah, I'm a true fan. That's why I'm going to have crippling anxiety. Yes. A true fan comes into this with pessimistic perspective because they know how much pain it will result in the event that you lose. Okay, I stay objective from a DFS perspective, from a betting standpoint, all of that. But to try and not call me a true fan.
Oh no,
because the result of a loss could be crippling, and all I'm trying to do is dull the pain in advance. Shame on you.
If I can just add, the fact that winning a Super Bowl in 2017 has not full on reversed you validates your true Philadelphia.
Thank you.
More so than anything else. Now I'm just playing the role for the show. No, actually, I really feel this way. But I think this city is split. This fan base is split. I don't know what Kansas City is. I don't know if that's impacting people from a betting standpoint, but I think Philadelphia has a lot of, we've already won it. And we have a lot of, we're not going to win it. And until I see the team winning it, the Eagles are not going to win it. And I think that pretty much describes the dichotomy right there. You also have the game itself, right? And Ben mentioned it. A lot of people outside of these two areas, Kansas City and Philadelphia, are just going to sit back, put their feet up, and hopefully cash some checks, right? Some tickets out there, some slips. If you look at this game as a whole, if you just look at what we have going on here, we'll talk about this, we'll get deep into it. But one thing we wanted to do to have fun right at the top is create a same game parlay, right? But it's a 4-leg same game parlay. So Loughy, Ben, we can explain this here a little deeper. We each have a leg, and we're going to throw a couple of options to the audience as a poll for this show, so that at the end of the show, we can see which leg wins and then add that to the 4-leg parlay, play it, and then hopefully cash some even more bigger tickets.
Dude, nice 4-leg parlay cash, same game parlay, Super Bowl 57. Come on now.
I'm with it.
Got to do it.
I almost feel like, and maybe we shouldn't. I almost feel like, because, you know, people ask us this all the time, right? Ben, you know this, Eytan, you know this. Like, we get this on our DFS shows all the time. The new thing is 4-leg anytime touchdown props, right? There's likely going to be more than 4 touchdowns in this game. Now, that isn't to say that a couple might not be from the same player. I get that. I'm kind of leaning towards a 4-leg anytime touchdown.
I'll do it. Okay. I'll do it if you want to do it like that.
I'll say this. Ryan Nelson on the Super Chat stole my leg ahead of time. So that's fine with me, because I was going to look at the under 26.5 for the Chiefs, Tim total. Team total, his favorite drunk uncle, everybody's favorite drunk uncle. That's Ryan Nelson on the super chat. So thank you, Ryan. Always appreciated. Never necessary. I'm with it, man. Going on that alone, I'm with it. All right, why don't you start then?
All right. So
or do you want to wait a second? How do you want to do this with the
no?
leg?
We're all going to give one, and then we're going to have 4 remaining options that people choose from. Winner based on what you guys decide. I'm going to bet this, by the way. I'm going to sprinkle on this because it's the Super Bowl. That one will decide it. We'll hit on that poll at like the 45-minute mark or something like that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'll bet it too. We'll all bet it. Even Ben.
Right.
I'll bet it.
I know Ben's going AJ Brown, so I'm almost certain.
Are we going chalk here? Like, is this just mostly chalk?
Dude, it's a 4-leg touchdown parlay. You can go chalk.
Okay. Can I just please, Eytan, just take someone that is active so we have a shot? When you ask, are we going chalk? Like, if we say no, you're just going to pick someone on the Niners or someone who's just not available. So
hey, I have a lot invested in Christian McCaffrey. And if you're on the Discord, you know I have a lot invested in Christian McCaffrey this week. That's all I'm saying.
What Ben means by that is we did a similar show on the Odd Shopper channel on Friday, and Ben and I's jaws were on the floor when Eytan goes, I'm going 12 to 1, whatever it was.
17 to 1, Loughy.
Ronald Jones. And we're like, what? Yeah, man, he might be in street clothes.
Hey.
So, all right. So, Eytan, you don't have to go chalky.
No, I get it. I get it. I didn't want to
go like Grant Calcaterra.
I thought that guy covers baseball.
He might.
All right, I'm going real chalk. In a spot like this, dude, Jalen Hurts has shortest odds against the field, but it's a 4-leg anytime touchdown.
I get it. I get it.
I'm going Jalen Hurts here. His rushing touchdown upside is unmatched right now among any quarterback, almost any running back. Give me Hurts at plus 105.
Oh wow, plus 105. Okay, so you've shopped that.
In the same game parlay, right now.
Oh, in the same game. Sorry, I was looking at just initial. You're right. Creating the same game parlay. Absolutely. All right. So Hurts plus, and this is the beauty, by the way, because we're on DK. You'll see this here. I was looking at it without the same game parlay at minus 105. So everything's going to be bumped up accordingly. That's right there at plus 105. Razzo, who you got?
So Hurts is going to have to run one and pass one because Loughy already said this. My favorite prop, my favorite player. I'm going to be on the DFS show after this. I'll be talking about him on DFS for captain. I really think that AJ Brown is primed to have a big game. I think he's primed to have real opportunities. He is going to be the guy. If I could pick only one guy to score in this game for the odds, it would be AJ Brown. So pair him up with Hurts. We'll get one on the ground. We'll get one through the air. And now 2 down, 2 to go.
We're plus 390 already.
Yeah, we're going to be.
And after this leg, plus 60,000.
We'll be plus 1,100. That's all. I promise you. By the way, this guy's under 2 to 1 as a payout. So slow down there, Ben. All right. I just don't see how Dallas Goedert doesn't have a big game. If you want to look at it from a narrative standpoint, I'll give you that. If you just want to look at it for where the Chiefs are covering this position, it's a struggle. They blitz a hell of a lot on 3rd down as well. Jalen Hurts, this offense, they have plays designed to get Goedert the ball fast in that middle of the field, especially if there's pressure coming from the middle of the field. Oh, by the way, Dallas Goedert has been the forgotten individual now for 2 straight games. George Kittle, and now Travis Kelce. Dallas Goedert's pretty good last I checked. I think there's a little extra motivation there. Anytime TD for Goedert now gets us to plus 1,100.
You're kind of killing me here, though, because now
okay, well, do you all right? Well, I mean,
Hurts needs like, okay, it's a 1.5. Hold on, it's a 1.5 point spread, right? So I think unless you see this being a route.
I do, actually.
I'm for it.
I'll flip it.
Okay. All right.
No.
If Ben's for, I'm just saying, like, this isn't a contrarian GPP play. Like, this is a parlay where we're not playing against the field.
So parlay doesn't get you.
The only other guy, I don't want to take a leg away from the audience, but I was split between 2 guys. I did go Philadelphia because I physically have bet this. So I thought, all right, I have some conviction behind it, but I can give you somebody on the Chiefs if you like.
Well, we should put that to the audience. I think it's pretty clear.
Okay. Has to be a Chiefs player, the 4th one.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's look at this. We've got the 2 obvious ones in Kelce and Pacheco. We also have Jerick McKinnon. And I think you can go, I mean, do you want to throw in a Tony, MVS, or even Juju when you're getting to like 350 to 1 back?
Right. And honestly, if we're going to have a 3 to 1 anytime touchdown score to one side, I'd rather it be the Eagles because it's a more condensed offense, at least. Like,
and they spread it around.
Yeah, I'm saying they don't spread it around as much as Kansas City, which is good.
Well, I meant like as far as Brown, Goddard, Smith, like you're not worried about.
I'm saying in Kansas City, it could be 10 different guys catching passes, and I don't feel like trying to play roulette. So, okay, let's go 4 options for the audience. Kelsey has to be one of them. Hands down, Kelsey's already one of them. Pacheco, I think, has to be number 2.
Yep.
So who's 3 and 4?
All right. My suggestion.
You got this, Jordan?
It'd be Kelsey and Pacheco. Oh, our picks? Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert.
But those aren't going in the poll.
Travis Kelce.
Yeah. Kelsey and Pacheco.
Yeah, I mean, Alcoholica, 1986, Tony. I think they're, Kadarius Toney might be a sexy name to throw in there where people could gravitate. I think you're probably down to like one or the other between a Juju and MVS. I don't know if you want to throw in a longer shot like Mahomes. To have that ability to bet him. I personally would not.
I agree throwing Toney in there for sure.
Well, then we need one more. And it's pretty much going to be a toss-up between Juju and MVS.
I think we should do Juju.
Okay, let's do Juju.
Fine with me. All right.
So you guys decide. What's the 4th leg? What's the Kansas City player that we need to score today? We already got Hurts, Brown, and Goddard. Even if you go Kelsey here, that's getting to plus 2,000, 20 to 1. So
right. And you see that on BetMGM. I mean, we're high right now on this.
Yeah. Okay.
Love it. Okay. So
Isaiah Pacheco, spell that right. S-I-A-H, Pacheco. Okay. Yeah. Toney and Smith-Schuster.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're locked in. By the way, deeper dive coming up after this. Live before lock coming up after that. We got you guys covered on all fronts.
It's amazing, man. We're jammed for the next 3 hours, right? 3.5.
Yep.
So, by the way, Ryan Nelson asking if I partake in property damage, not my own property damage. I'm too old to go anywhere. I was out and about in 2017. I'm too old. I got a kid now. I'll be in home.
If they win, are you going to the parade?
Yeah, I'll go to the parade, but that's, in a week.
I hate parades.
I already told Nolan and Chris that if we were to win, I won't be here on Thursday. So
no, I hope the Chiefs win just because I'm going to be filling in on your crazy shows. You two fools. Great.
No, I'm working tomorrow, even though the Eagles.
Me too.
The poll.
Me too. We'll see how much work gets done, but technically I'm on the schedule.
All right. We got some early votes in already now, and Travis Kelce is in the lead, but we'll see and we'll update as we keep going here. The game itself, before we tell you all about what's happening, there's some really cool opportunities for you to jump in here with BetMGM. The game itself, just talking a little bit about it, as you mentioned, Loughy, we had this on the Odd Shop, on the Odd Shopper channel on Friday. We have the parlay built for you all now. The 4-leg, the 4th one is yours. If you just look at the game itself, and then we kind of dive into some player props, some more specifics. Ben, if you want to just start, because I know that your heart is not as invested as maybe Loughy's and myself, just how you see this game and plays that we can make without kind of venturing into that player prop and even that crazy outlandish area.
So I think the beautiful thing about when you drill down into player props is, we're on Stochastic channel. A lot of you guys, I see regulars playing DFS. To me, this is a showdown mentality. You're going to want to tell a story. You're going to want to work backwards in how you think the game is going to go. And then if that's to happen, who benefits the most? If the Eagles win 38-10, there are certain player props that would be wildly adjusted if you knew that was the score. And if the Chiefs win, that on their side. So for me, when I dive in, I've said this now twice in the playoffs, and I've been wrong both times. I like the Eagles in the spot, but I do think they're going to have to be tested in terms of actually playing in the second half and not just running the ball and getting out of there. And I do think that helps the skill position players outside of that backfield. I think Boston Scott will be rendered just irrelevant here. Gainwell and Sanders will still be there, but to me, it's a big boost to Goddard, to Smith, to A.J. Brown, to Jalen Hurts rushing upside. I think he's going to have to move. So right off the bat, without even drilling down into specific props, Jalen Hurts on the ground, A.J. Brown in the air. These are guys that weren't needed against the Giants, weren't needed against the Niners. They will be needed today, in my opinion.
So I totally agree with that. and you and I have discussed this a lot over the last couple of weeks leading up to today, but I can't help but look at the Kenny Gainwell rushing yards prop.
He's just good.
20.5, 19.5 in some spots on rushing yards. Like, I understand that you could say, yeah, but a lot of that work came in garbage time. The thing, though, is he's played well. He's played really well. I anticipate him continuing to get work. And if you think about this, too, let's say he only gets 8 carries, right? Let's say he gets 8 carries. You need what? 2.5 or so yards per carry to get you over that number. Let's say he gets 6 carries. You still don't need a lot from him at all. You need, less than 3.3 or 3.5 yards per attempt. We didn't talk about this when we did the show on Friday, but I got to tell you, Eytan, over 19.5 rushing yards. And I got some overs on the Chiefs as well. I also got some unders on both sides. Over 19.5, over 20.5, depending on where you are. Still seems like a pretty favorable spot for a guy that I don't think is just going to fade off into the abyss, like Ben was saying about Boston Scott.
Yeah, I think I think you're right. First and foremost, I definitely think you're right. I think you can almost have some fun with a guy like Gainwell and use his rushing props as like the baseline, right? Like you can take Kenny Gainwell, go over, you said 19.5, right? Depending on where you can find it. If
you're in PA, Unibet has it at 18.5 still. MGM has it at 19.5.
So what I would do is I would play that, and we'll talk about this a little deeper because I'm not going to give the analysis behind it, but I would take a long, hard look. This is not a same game parlay, all right? People jumping on the SG. No. I'm just saying you can do this solo and almost treat it like a ladder where you're taking the baseline play to go over 18.5 rushing yards, 19.5 rushing yards, and play the anytime TD, even at a smaller rate, because I'm with you, Lofty. I think the biggest misconception about the Philadelphia Eagles is trying to extract something you saw over the last 2 games. Oh, Jalen Hurts in this. Oh, it's garbage. No. Kenny Gainwell has been a piece of this offense throughout the season. Maybe not the biggest piece, but clearly not a forgotten piece either. And I think in a Super Bowl like this and in a game like this, a guy's going to be devalued. I know that, people were boosting Boston Scott where they can. He's at 8.5. That's another guy that I think 2 carries, he's getting over that. So keep an eye on this, but I love where you're going with Gainwell.
Yeah. And you know what? Someone mentioned this in chat. Love this, by the way. They said another thing that's juicy is Gainwell over 4.5 carries. Like, you don't even have to hit the yards if you just want to hit the carries. If you think he gets 5 attempts, which I think is more than plausible in a spot like this. I mean, sure, they're likely not going to run as much as they did in some of these other games, but Kenny Gainwell's at 4.5 rushing attempts right now.
I'm on OddsShopper right now looking at that exact prop, and that's the type of stuff, again, OddsShopper, this is what you want to do. You need to shop these because I'm looking at over 4.5. It's over 4.5 everywhere. I see over 4.5 at -115. I see over 4.5 at -145.
Yep.
Like, this is the type of stuff you really got to take advantage of. And yeah, I mean, there you don't even care about efficiency. Boston Scott, just for reference, his over-under is at 2.5, and it's really juiced to the under. I don't think he's going to get, I think there's a real chance Boston Scott only has 1 or even no touches in this game.
But even still, like 2 carries is enough to get 9 yards for Boston Scott. So I would take, if you're going to play, my point, Ben, is if you're going to play Boston Scott, I would just play his rushing yards. Because he's got a better chance to break that if he touches the football. Because if he doesn't touch the football at all, none of those bets are going to hit, is my point.
Well, that is true. If I was going to,
the old Ronald Jones theory.
Yeah, same game parlay, Ronald Jones, Boston Scott to be in the stands.
Anytime.
I think a guy like that, to me, a lot of people watching, it's the Super Bowl. I get it. You want to build crazy parlays. Boston Scott, to me, is one of the most correlated players for a blowout in the entire game. If Boston Scott has a ton of work, someone either got hurt or the Eagles win by like 30 points, in my opinion. I don't know how he's in there, unless I read this game script wrong, in a competitive back and forth game.
Yeah, look, this is not going to turn into the Boston Scott segment by any means.
Thank God.
But there have been crazy times this year in which Miles Sanders has been absent for stretches, in which Kenny Gainwell has not been given the obvious carry or touch. It should not shock you if Boston Scott had 3 touches in the Super Bowl. That's all I'm saying. That's all. Does he do anything with it? Probably not. All right. Too much Boston Scott. Unless he's like some punt of yours later on the DFS show, Ben.
No, definitely not.
No, I don't think I really look at this as a spot where you could see extraordinarily limited workload. I know you're not saying the opposite, Eytan, but
exactly.
I would honestly, so my bet is figuratively and literally is that this is still Miles Sanders' backfield, but Kenny Gainwell is like the very clear change of pace guy that could get 8 to 10 carries. And if he doesn't, still gets to 5 and gets you over that 4.5.
Yeah, look at Frank Castle. Scott's scored a touchdown both playoff games. He only has 12 touches, definitely the third option in the offense. All of that is true, like all of what Ben said is true, like all of what Loughy said is true, like all of what I said is true. Nobody's really countering this. We're just kind of narrowing down. I can't believe Boston Scott has got this much attention. Seriously, because if this guy scores a touchdown, you're not going to hear the end of it.
They won those games by 31 and 24.
Yeah, I get it. That's why I said what you said correlates. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So if they win again by that, absolutely. I do want to ask you, I know there's a million props to get to, but if
we have to talk about something before we get in deeper into the player props.
Okay.
But
see, I was ready to go.
Anything left on the game itself?
No, not for me. I think the total is the toughest bet out there. I've gone back and forth in my own mind between over and under a lot. I really don't know what to do there.
The number in my head that keeps bouncing around is 27-24. And
that's 51.
That's like a push.
Exactly. Like you're going to find this total at 51 or 50.5. So that's clearly, don't feel comfortable about that one. I'd lean Eagles money line, but there's so many props that I don't want to get crazy on something that's the most heavily bet game in the country every single year. Like it's the biggest bet, most heavily bet sporting event. You're not getting an edge betting a side on this game.
No, I think you're using your own analysis or guess or anything to that extent, whatever.
Wait, hold on a second. Ben mentioned this on Friday. This is super helpful to anybody watching, and I agree. And I will say my approach, just bet the quarterback to win the MVP of the team you were going to win. If you want to get that, I know Ben hates this, but I love it.
I really do.
It's not as crazy as you think, just because it's baked in. Like these guys, if they have a decent game, Hurts or Mahomes, whoever wins is winning the MVP. Mark my words. Like they don't have to be great. They just need to be okay. We see it every year. There's a premier marquee quarterback in football. And the storylines around these guys are so stupid right now in terms of how much they're talked about that it would be insane for them to be like Kenny Gainwell MVP.
Boston Scott.
We can Ronald Jones. We got some long shots. Don't get me wrong for MVP, because you always have to bet one. Like Aaron Donald was my guy last year. I think he should have won it. But if you're saying, all right, I'll just bet the MVP of the team I think that's going to win, Mahomes and Hurts at plus money. You don't have to love it. I like it. Anyway, Ben, you said you might hit some of this stuff live in game from a side or a total perspective instead of hitting it pregame or pre-kickoff.
Yeah, I think that's a really important aspect. Again, like if you're shopping these numbers, I'm on OddsShopper, looking at them, checks out. I think it's about right. This game starts, with a quick score or something, I might go to the under. If it stalls and I think that the teams are moving the ball, maybe they couldn't capitalize. I might hit the over live in the game after a slow start. It's a Super Bowl, so don't be afraid to take a position here in the middle. I actually think with the total specifically, I'll probably end up with a bet on it. We'll talk about that and we'll talk about Discord later in the show. I'm just not sure it's going to be before the game.
Yeah, it makes sense. Absolutely. The one side that I played for me before we get into deeper player props, tell you what's going on here at BetMGM. I mean, this is amazing, would be to take the Eagles in the first half. I don't see how the Chiefs are able to keep up offensively overall with the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think the Eagles have been, as proven throughout this year, a first half team. I know that second quarter, they were doing amazing things and things started to pan or even out a little bit, but they're still a first half team. They can get up. Their goal is to get the lead and play with it. If I can lay a half point at plus 110, I'm absolutely doing that. So that was the one side. And again, I'm staying away from the game itself. I'm looking at the first half where I think the Eagles have a little more control with that. I think the Chiefs will be playing down, and that's just the reality of what they have to deal with. We have a ton of players.
How in the world do you not think Patrick Mahomes can keep up with this team?
Because he has one guy, and that one guy the Eagles have been able to do okay to good against. And this is, you know what this is?
Tell them.
This is the Eagles versus the idea. This is the reality of the Philadelphia. This is a football team, Loughy, versus an idea, a concept. Well, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, you start to look at this team, they aren't nearly as talented as the Eagles outside of two spots, right? Tight end and quarterback. The quarterback the Eagles have is the second arguably best player in the NFL, and the tight end is like a top 5 tight end when he's on his game. So the gap between these two teams has been talked up so much because the idea of Mahomes. Look, even Jordan, even Brady, all these guys had moments, right? So that's all I'm saying.
You're scaring me, man.
Ancient aliens type stuff. I'm telling you.
Wait a second. I'm not telling you that weather balloon was a UFO. All right. So slow down.
Nah,
listen, as crazy as what you just said sounds, I think there's some real chances that, and I know I'm not the first person to say this, the Eagles are going to take away what the Chiefs do, and they're going to get pressure, and Mahomes might not be able. We saw this only a couple of years ago. I know Mahomes is Mahomes. Look what happened when they lost the Super Bowl. He had no time to throw. And I don't care who you are. If you have no time, it doesn't matter. You can do what you can, but there's a chance the Eagles really do get to him.
But you also said you could see the Eagles get routed in this game.
I think the range of outcomes on this game is enormous. I really do.
All I'm saying though is, like, okay, we talk about how good the Eagles pass rush is, right? Yeah. And listen, I'm saying this like as objectively as I can. I think that's pretty obvious at this point. We say how good their pass rush is, which is true. It's the best in the league. It has been all season long. The Chiefs have a good pass rush. The Chiefs have a good offensive line. They're not as good as ours, but the talent gap isn't as dramatic as people make it out to be. But if you're talking about the best defensive line and the best pass rush in the league, you can't say that without in the same breath saying that there is literally no better player at throwing outside of the pocket. There is no better outside of the pocket quarterback in football since he entered the league than Patrick Mahomes. He has thrown 3 times as many touchdowns outside of the pocket in the playoffs over the last 5 years than the next closest player. That's Josh Allen. So I'm like, yes, our pass rush is amazing. If we get to him, it's a wrap. But also, if he starts making those throws outside of the pocket that he does, where he completely turns the defense inside out, it's not, this isn't a one-dimensional thing here. It's not like pocket stationary Tom Brady quarterback in the twilight of his career. This is a quarterback that even with this ankle is very capable of moving. Like, you just don't see it?
No, because you like Juju Smith-Schuster, Marvez Valdez-Scantling. This is not Tom Brady throwing to a lacrosse player turned an NFL receiver. These are guys that I don't think even Mahomes can elevate to win a Super Bowl. So if Travis Kelce's out of this football game, it's over. It's over. If the Eagles are up 10-0, it's over. 31-17.
All right.
Book it. $5 to win $5K.
I didn't even hear what you said. I just heard the end of it. But
31-7. You can bet that, by the way. You can bet a correct score on BetMGM.
You know, I was just talking with Chad about that because,
let's do it.
A couple of people. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say there were good points in chat about like, if you see the game with kind of all different takes and on the margins, I think one of the ways to explore that is alt lines. Like you can bet the game straight up and you're betting, 110 to win 100, minus 110, say. That's great. If you think one of the teams blows out the other, why not lay extra points and get a 100 to win 500, a big time payout if you're right, rather than win it? What good is it? If you bet the spread normally, you want to up the variance if you think that. So I think that's one way to really explore. Look at the alt lines in this game if you think both teams or one team has a chance to win by 2 or 3 touchdowns.
By the way, Ben, I was watching Wolf of Wall Street yesterday.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
Great movie, dude. Jonah Hill, Matthew McConaughey. I mean, come on.
Just good movie.
Just a good movie all around. You've kind of got the Leo.
Wait, Jonah Hill? You can't say Jonah Hill good movie in the same sentence, right?
Bro, Jonah Hill and Wolf of Wall Street's fantastic, and you're crazy.
I've got the Leo go on. I can't wait to hear this.
Like you're dressed like Leo, dressed in Wolf of Wall Street.
Leo is no joke. Like Leo
is that tucked into khakis?
Yeah, well, I got fun coupons. I'll just be handing them out after the show.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to tell
I just got compared to Leo. I'll take it.
Well, I thought you were going to go deeper into the Wolf of Wall Street comparison here of what you saw.
But I will say, if you don't think Jonah Hill was good in War Dogs, you are.
That's a good movie.
It's a great.
Jonah Hill doesn't come on my. I'm trying to raise a child in my house, Loughy. All right, I'm not exposing him to Jonah Hill. What the hell's wrong with you,
dude? I just sit her down. I have her watch like nature stuff, the animals, right? Safari. I'm telling you, man.
We watch golf.
She loves it too.
That's great.
Yeah.
See, Ben's like, wait a second. I watch nature shows, golf, animals.
Yeah, I don't want her watching that brain melt shit.
Oh man, I love it. All right, we have to tell you. I told you could bet this correct score here at BetMGM, and we have this awesome opportunity. You've been hearing a lot about it, but this really is it, right? Think about all the different ways that you can have access to all of the tools that we have on Stokastic. You'd have to, win in the Hall of Fame, and that's pretty difficult, right? In order to get a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum and everything that comes with it. Well, how about just signing up at BetMGM? Your first bet is going to be insured up to $1,000. So you can click this link below. We have it. It's going to take you 90 seconds. We actually did the math. It takes you about 65 seconds on average to sign up and do everything. But we have a little plus minus. If you're a little slow like me, that's fine. You can click the link, sign up. Platinum Sub is the code. And this is the best part about it. It's twofold. One, if your bet loses on BetMGM, whatever you deposit up to $1,000, right back. You want to put $1,000 risk-free on the Eagles, on the Chiefs. You want to put it on the Chiefs just to shut my fat mouth up? Go ahead and do it. It's risk-free up to $1,000 back. And this is the best part, I think, about it, fellas, is that not only are you getting this whole risk-free opportunity at BetMGM, but you're getting something that normally takes a lot more work to get to, which is a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum just for signing up and depositing, $10 at BetMGM.
Yeah, it's $120 value. It's every tool on the site by taking 2 minutes of your time, $10. Put it on Kenny Gainwell over 19.5 rushing yards at BetMGM. That's what I would say. Or throw it on a massive long shot because it's a first bet insurance up to $1,000. You're getting it all back in bonus bets anyway. Play it how you want. You're getting the free month. You're getting all our tools, not just football, literally every single sport out there, like everything out there, including the new lineup generator that somebody just won 50K with, somebody just won 10K. Another one just won another 12K with it within the last week, dude. It's crushing. And you're getting that included in the Stokastic Plus Platinum for NBA. All the sports. And when NBA goes to All-Star break, guess what? You still got MMA, you got PGA, you got NHL, everything, $10. Simplest decision you could make. And you can use these tools if you're playing in low stakes. Like not everyone's paying $120 a month to play in low stakes. Right? To use these tools, you're going to be using these tools where other people aren't. Straight no-brainer. Links in the description and in the chat.
All right. I see Narco Cop, who made a lot of people a lot of money last night.
Yes, he
on
did.
The MMA ticket. He's in the house. Like people are right now coming up with their money out, their wallet open, saying, yo, fellas, I've got money to spend. Let's make some here. Let's dive into the player prop world a little deeper than what we talked about. Yes, we have some long shot. Yes, I'm going to drive Ben crazy with some absurd stuff just to see Loughy's reaction to it. But why don't we dive in? Loughy, I know you've been itching to get really deep into the player prop street.
Yeah, man. Hey, like I said, I still think that Kenny Gainwell spot that we hit on earlier in the show, because I didn't mention this earlier, is a really good, or I didn't mention this when we were talking the other day, is a really, really good one. But and listen, just because you're taking over on like a rushing prop and a receiving prop from the same team, I don't think it means all that much today, as long as you're understanding like how this game should go. 19.5 rushing yards on 5 carries is, 4 yards per attempt. On 6-7 carries, you don't need much at all from Kenny Gainwell. But I'm going back to AJ Brown here. 72.5. Ben, have you looked at his on Odd Shopper? I want to make sure I'm getting the best one here.
AJ Brown?
Yeah, AJ Brown receiving.
So I have it right now. Let me just pull it up.
I got it. Okay, so
71.5. 70.5.
70.5 at points bet. Okay.
Yeah. You got to lay a little extra juice, but again, this is what the beauty of what we're looking at. Like you can kind of mix and match, see where you want to plunk it down. Not bad.
It's not, especially when you consider like, okay, are the Eagles going to abandon the run today? No, obviously not. I think this could be not a split backfield, but a 60-40 situation. But in the passing game, even though Eytan thinks that Kansas City is going to get blanked, I still think that Kansas City will put some points on the board and force Philadelphia to throw a little bit. Let's not forget conference championship. Brock Purdy went down. Hey, credit to the Eagles defense, right? They got in there. If you're going to throw a tight end on Hassan Reddick and expect your quarterback not to get hurt, that's your own fucking fault. And then you had Josh Johnson. Okay. He goes down, boom, head rattled. He's down because they couldn't protect our pass rush. They couldn't defend our pass rush. Sorry. Couldn't protect the quarterback. And then against the New York Giants, they were fraudulent from the jump. We all knew that, right? They beat a Minnesota team that was more fraudulent than the New York Giants, which says a lot. So they didn't need to throw the football. Yes, A.J. Brown was overthrown by Hurts twice last week, but he still saw 2 deep balls. He has 32 deep attempts on the season. I really love that here. I think you trade for him in the draft. You trade away your 18th overall pick to use A.J. Brown heavily in a spot like this. And I will say at plus 225, longest reception of the game, I like that to be A.J. Brown as well. These are 2 spots I feel pretty good about.
Look, man, I don't think I'm going against you guys. I think I'm just taking a different way, right? And it's probably more like, yeah, both of these 2 roads are going to get you there the same way. It's just one's more scenic, one's more industrial, what have you. I think that there is going to be a concerted effort to get A.J. Brown the football, but from Spags and that defense to do as much as they can. I hate to use the phrase take him out of the game, but limit to that extent. I think Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert I have getting in the end zone, but I think Devontae Smith is the guy that I want to target. Over 22.5, longest reception for Devontae. Love the fact that he's going to be stretching and that he's also going to be an option if, in fact, A.J. Brown does get limited. Here's another play that I think Devontae is a guy that they love going to right away. They love reminding a defense that as much as you've prepared all week for A.J. Brown, guess what? You left somebody one-on-one, or you forgot this area, or we have a kid who's just so talented in creating space. Over 22.5 longest reception in the game for Devontae Smith. Over 14.5 first quarter receiving yards for Devontae Smith. Again, up top, a couple of quick peppered passes to him. I think he can get to 15 in the first quarter, and that longest pass or reception part of him is going to be over 22.5 for Devontae. So that's where I would start there with Smith, targeting him as that true kind of 1A to AJ.
I like it. I can't agree more with AJ Brown. I already talked about how much I like him. I'm going to take it a different direction here. I already mentioned Jalen Hurts. I think his rushing yards at 49.5 is interesting. We had Courtney mentioned in chat. We've all talked about the Eagles side, the Eagles winning. If you think the Chiefs win the game, what do you do with the player props? What do you do with the same game parlay? So I'm going to take a mindset now of if the Chiefs win this game, and what do I think? And I think the guy, obviously Mahomes, of course Mahomes, but Isaiah Pacheco to me is really primed to have a day, whether it's catching the ball, which he showed he could do, but even running the ball to take the pressure off Mahomes. His rushing yards prop is 46.5 out there. He played, and it doesn't sound like a ton, but he played 57% of snaps in their last game. That was the most all season for him. Over McKinnon, I don't think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be a hot topic in the next show. I don't think he's going to play a major role. To me, if the Chiefs are successful today, of course it could be pick your poison on the outside. It's hard to play the player prop game with Sky Moore and Watson and MVS and Juju. I have no idea how you go about that. Pacheco to me is the guy that you want to look over towards. And I think that is something that you can do. You can do some things with the Chiefs defense if you want to say that like Hurts throws a pick or fumbles or something, but I'm going to hone in on Isaiah Pacheco today, Loughy. I know that you've mentioned him over on the Odd Shopper channel a couple times this week. I am with you there as well. I think Pacheco is going to have a big game, particularly if the Chiefs win.
I'm with you. And I will say, I'm not entirely convinced like some people are that this backfield is just entirely his right now, but I do still think, what's that?
Pacheco?
Yeah. Like I still think that this is in flux, and I think it changes.
Yeah, but Ronald Jones is a heavy target.
Yeah, dude. He's gonna have a 90-yard touchdown. Well, he's gonna run down the sideline 90 yards when Pacheco breaks out. And
get pushed out of bounds at the 1, and I'm gonna get a text from you with like a big middle finger.
Oh, no. I'm saying that he's gonna be in street clothes tracking Pacheco down the sideline cheering him on.
Yeah, they're going to do the Dr. Pepper thing at halftime, and Ronald Jones will actually be participating.
That's all I care about. Just
it's like the iPhone commercial where the lady's like running down, filming it with the stabilized video and just running people over. That'll be Ronald Jones down the sideline. No, I'm with you though. Like, I still think Pacheco is the better value here. I want to know though where you guys stand on Miles Sanders unders, because like there's still under 61.5 out there rushing yards. There's still under 1.5. Like, I think if you're doing same game parlays on BetMGM, you pretty much have to look at the under 1.5 receptions here. There's a lot of juice there, but I think you got to look towards a under 1.5 receptions. If you're throwing it, it's minus 210, but man, there's just such a low likelihood that he gets 2 receptions, let alone targets in this game. Gainwell has been all season long the 2-minute guy, right? He's been the one when they need him in the 2-minute drill, when they're in hurry up. Like, it's Kenny Gainwell, not Miles Sanders. So unless they're just running out an entirely different defense or offense that we haven't seen before, and they're just pulling crazy stuff out of their ass. Like, we've seen Sanders run a wheel route here and there and do some wild stuff, but still, he's so seldom targeted in the passing game that I don't know. I think the numbers might be the way I'm reading this, and I could be way off, is I think the numbers are a little high on Sanders this week and a little low on Kenny Gainwell.
Yeah, I agree to that with Gainwell. I think you're right there. Sanders is he's a wild card. And look, I saw Brandon Katz put this out there. Hurts shoulder, still not 100%. Sanders should get 15, 20 carries. Look, I don't know if Jalen Hurts physically has pain in his shoulder.
But Brandon.
But here's the thing.
Yeah, I'm the only doctor.
Nothing's wrong with Jalen Hurts to the extent of, like, he's still going to run the offense. He's still going to put his head down. He's still going to try and break a tackle. He's still going to run RPOs. Like, nothing. He's still going to throw the ball 35 yards downfield. Nothing has changed with that. So I wouldn't think like, oh, Hurts is hurt, therefore I'm going to bet X or Y. I would treat both of these quarterbacks, to be honest, fellas, like they're 100% healthy.
We just have no idea. Again, that's why live betting is so important. Maybe he is limited. We'll find out, but I seriously doubt it. I'm not too worried about it for either of them. I don't think
I think we would have heard something. Either. Like, I think we, even in our channels, right? Betting channels, covering sports channels, like, stuff gets out, right? If they leak that stupid airplanes flying over the national anthem bet, then something with Hurts' health. That's what I'm saying. But you're right, Ben. Like, we don't know. And that's why the live element comes in here. Do you have anything longer shot before I just take over with the most mad, crazy, most belligerent shit that I can find? Because this is the best part about it, Loughy, is that we've forced Ben into this corner where he has to come up with something he knows in a million years he'd never bet.
I'll say this. Most of what you said is true. But I'll bet anything if there's value. I don't care what it is. Like, if I think something has a 2% chance of happening and I'm getting 100 to 1 on it, sure, that sounds fantastic. And I think that's where, I know I've said this multiple times, but I can't stress it enough. The longer you go, the more the odds vary from site to site. So, like, I'm looking at first touchdown scores. This is probably as crazy as I'll get. AJ Brown is 10 to 1 on BetMGM. I like that number quite a bit. He's 6.5 to 1 on other books. Like, I would never bet that at 6 to 1. I might take a flyer on that at 10 to 1. I actually am going to, because I do like that number. So just little things like that. This segment is tailor-made for you, though. This is your moment to shine.
No, we need Loughy in here, though.
I got a long shot real quick.
Yeah, because don't just side me as craziness. Like, Loughy straddles that line between the ancient alien guy and you, Ben. All right.
That's a line.
I try and separate my wild conspiracy theories from football.
But I've given you a lot this year on the Odd Shop show. Shit that I think I've pulled you over every now and again, Loughy.
There have been times. It's unusual, but it can happen. Listen, because I'm on some of these Gainwell overs, and I do think that he's going to be used more than we're seeing. I do like full disclosure. This was at like plus 450 last week, but you can still get Kenny Gainwell anytime touchdown at plus 390. I don't hate that at all. This team runs so much inside the 5. Like, and it's not just Sanders, it's not just Hurts. They run so much. inside the 5-yard line that I think Gainwell has a pretty, and not to mention that if he's involved in the passing game as well, there's some opportunity. So Kenny Gainwell, anytime touchdown at plus 390 today. And by the way, if you just want to find, if you're still going book to book and like seeing where the best odds are, which by the way, if you're not doing this with books for like anytime touchdown props, and like Ben said, first touchdown scores, you're losing insane value, like insane. There's spots where certain guys are plus 600 to score and plus 350 in other spots to score. Odd Shopper Premium's free for the first week. It's insanely valuable. Ben could probably speak to it more, just the way that everything has come up with, but even just shopping the odds, much further than that though, getting the best plus EV bets, first week's entirely free. And it's not just football, it's so many other sports, man.
Listen, it's a grind. We were talking about the deal with BetMGM and why taking advantage is so important. All of these little things are massively important because these edges are small. And if you do that stuff, it's time consuming. And that's why we have people who develop tools to save time. I don't have time to go to 6 books and look for each player in each game with each line. Do you know how long that would take? There's a chart. You look at it, it shines, it highlights the best odds. I go to that book and I bet the bet I want. It's that simple. As Loughy said, it's free. You can go check it out right now. Just go to the Compare NFL page. That simple. Eytan, come on now. How bad is this going to be? Like, do I need to hold on to the chair, or
are we
is
not throwing anything else out here? Is it just me for the next 5 minutes, just running down like octopus plays and shit like that? We have other stuff here, huh?
I have seen more every day, and I love our Discord. It's amazing. The most common question over the last week is, what is an octopus? Because you have these octopus bets.
Okay. Let me just say this.
Please.
On Friday's Odd Shop show on the Odd Shopper channel, Ben threw out, will there be a successful, correct?
Yes.
2-point conversion. And that was in the plus 230, 250 range that you can play. Immediately, what I liked was combining that with a plus 1400 play. Will there be an octopus? So if you don't know what an octopus is, it's not what gets thrown down on the ice in Detroit for hockey games. It's the same player who scores a touchdown, scores the very next 2-point conversion. Jalen Hurts tucks it, he tucks it again.
Which equals 8 points, by the way, hence the name octopus.
Thank you.
I never realized
Octo
that.
8. Yes, absolutely. Philadelphia's own Mitch Goldich from Sports Illustrated coined this phrase. So, Philly keeps winning when everybody's talking about a bet like this, the octopus. I would throw that out there only if you're playing the successful 2-point conversion. I think that's a great one there. The two that I love, look, anytime we talked about anytimes, I'm not going to just bore you with the.
Does an octopus have to be the same 2-point conversion on that touchdown? Okay.
Yes. Absolutely.
I've never bet the octopus before. Wanted to make sure it wasn't like you could score and then you could have a 2-point conversion.
No. I've bet this once before, but I love it this year, especially with a guy like Hurts. Look, somebody's going to score that's going to piss a lot of people off because they didn't bet him, because they didn't have him on their card. And the longer you go for odds, the more likely you're going to find somebody who's not dressing for the football game or like a Clyde Edwards-Helaire type shit. I think Quez Watkins is the perfect balance between long shot, it ain't going to happen, and being on the field for just enough snaps to get a look or two. It's going to be a big play. It's going to be a red zone play. It's probably going to be the 4th option through progressions, but at plus 750, I'll put a 1/10 of a unit, maybe 20th of a unit, if you will, $20 to win, what have you, on that. So Quez Watkins plus 750. And then, I'll leave it at that for you guys.
I like it.
That's solid.
Well, I mean, do you want to go, like, are we done? Do you want me to hit with the Kelsey stuff, or are we still?
No, hold on a second. Hold on a second.
That's all I'm saying.
Because we'll get there. I don't want people's heads to explode quite yet. We still got 7
We had
minutes.
to get a couple of reads out before people left thinking like, oh my God, what did I listen to?
Exactly. So I want to hear from a non-Eagles fan for a second. Now, like we said, I keep bias out of this. I think Eytan's unbiased, right? You're unbiased, Eytan.
Not today, I'm not. Normally I am. All right. Normally I am. But today the odd shop is on the mothership. I figured I'd show you what Shander is like when the Eagles are in the Super Bowl.
I got you. Okay. So then let me ask Ben, right? Because he's not, so people can get a truly objective take. You haven't really talked about many Chiefs prizes. I know you like Pacheco. Are there any other ones out there that you like, or does a lot of this come down to you not trying to figure out, like spin the wheel and figure out which one of Kadarius or MVS or Juju or, Jody Fortson is going to be the guy today?
Yeah, Jody Foster's out there. So to me, in 5 minutes coming, of course, you guys get settled in because we're not going anywhere. We're going DFS heavy for the next hour.
I'm going somewhere though. Maybe
you're going.
Yeah,
you're going. Me and Loughy, we're bringing in the boss man.
Right. That's a good thing. Trust me.
We have to talk about these guys because they're in the pool. You don't have the luxury of saying, I don't understand Kadarius Toney. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to remove him from the pool. No one can play him. He's forced. In betting, you have the advantage over the book in that you don't have to make a stand on everyone. And for me, I see no reason to try to play Chiefs roulette with guys that it's from the injuries to the unknown. It's really difficult for me. So I like the backfield a little bit. Your guess would be as good as mine in terms of the guys you mentioned: Sky Moore, Watson, Kelsey, Noah Gray, McKinnon can get involved. Pacheco caught the ball last week. I don't see any reason to put positions on player props for the Chiefs because of that.
With that in mind, though, Eytan, and I get that, but with that in mind, Kelsey ran away with our poll anytime touchdown score.
I saw that.
Okay.
70%. But I'm saying that's not surprising because everyone has the same mentality that Ben just threw out there.
Yep. And look, he's really good. So everybody every week comes out with a mentality of we're going to stop that guy. Like nobody goes into a game against the Chiefs and say, we'll shut everybody else down except Travis Kelce and let him beat us. So it's hard. It's very difficult to keep this man out of the end zone. I totally understand that by all means. All right,
so what are the odds on that now on MGM?
It's like 20-1.
Yeah, it's got to be up there because I was close to 11-1 when we added that. So Jordan's going to have the final one there for us. All right, let's run through. I don't have a lot on this. I'm sure you guys don't either. I do want to hit you with something specific to BetMGM, though, before we get out of here, because this is just another reminder that not every book has every prop, and we have been killing this one prop all year. But MVP, anything belligerent. Why don't we combine the two? We can kind of go rapid fire, right? Go around the room here, Ben. If you have an MVP bet, if you have an MVP lane that you like, and then maybe something belligerent. And you define belligerent different than Loughy does, different than I do.
Yeah, I mean, the MVP is a subjective award, so I don't like to bet it because, as Loughy's talked about before, if Hurts or Mahomes even have a remotely decent game, they're going to get it over the guy that might be the true catalyst of why that team won. So to me, it's difficult to go against the quarterbacks. Obviously, people are going to look to defense. I think if you go against the quarterbacks, you have to think of a guy that isolates. And what I mean by that is, like, A.J. Brown for MVP is tough because if he has a huge game, Hurts has a big game. But like Miles Sanders, a defensive player, they can have big games and it doesn't help Mahomes or Hurts. So that's the only way I could see it outside of the quarterbacks, most likely. And it will be the winner. That's the thing. Has to be from the winning team. That always happens. So right there, you got to pick the winning team, and it's probably going to be their quarterback.
Oh,
Loughy?
Someone's come around.
No, you still shouldn't do that. You should not do what you're doing.
It sounded like you did come around a little bit.
It's better with the Eagles because they're favorite, but
got it. Okay.
Look, you guys already know that I think Reddick, in the event that the Eagles were to win this game and Hurts is just okay. Like, let's just say his shoulder's not right. Or let's say he just doesn't have a great game, but they run the ball down their throat. It's one of these spots where it's like a committee backfield approach. If they were to win with a game like that, it likely means that Patrick Mahomes wasn't great, because I don't see the Eagles getting to, 40 points in a spot like that. And if that's the case, I think Hassan Reddick, just an absolute dog, has Mahomes under duress all game long. If that's the case, like that's how I'm just giving you how he could win, right? Like Ben said, normally, and I said it earlier, quarterback, right? Damian Williams should have won it when Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs won back a few years ago, but it went to Mahomes. White should have won it for Tampa Bay, but it was Tom Brady when they beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, you could make a lot of these arguments. When wide receivers win it, it's usually a low scoring game. Last year, 23-20, nobody was really that great. It was Cooper Kupp, 13-3, Julian Edelman in the worst Super Bowl game we've ever seen, right? So I would say if I'm going long shot, it's Hassan Reddick, but I will be betting the quarterback of the team I think that who is going to win, because there's too many storylines around them when you're talking about a game that or an award that is subjective. It is humans like us making this decision.
That's a perfect way to explain what's going on in the MVP. I'm not going to add any name to that, because if I were to bet the MVP, I would just tail what you guys threw out, especially knowing where Reddick is and was to that extent. We end on some madness here before the boss comes in and replaces me at the very least, but that's going to be easy for Alex. And Loughy and Ben continue on here as things shift to the DFS side. But on the way out, just some stupid, crazy, long shot shit that's probably not going to happen, but really fun. Before that, there is a prop. It's on the field goal tab. It is only on BetMGM. These guys can tell you, I have been slamming this, especially for primetime games. We are up a ton of units in the Discord. The prop is simple. Each team to kick 1+ field goal in the first half. Prime time, this bet hits. You'd be surprised how often, and it's always at plus money. I've never seen it at minus. And the beauty is you're only going to get it on BetMGM. This bet is not available any other book. Trust me, I've tried. People, oh, I don't have BetMGM. Well, you better sign up for BetMGM. That's just another reason on top of the first free month at Stochastic Platinum Plus that you're going to get. Final thought on the way out for me, and I'll leave it for you guys before we get out of here. Both Kelce's to score 200-1. I think that's better than any offensive lineman to score a touchdown, because Jason Kelce is on his way out. Nick Sirianni wants Jason Kelce to score. 3 other guys on the Eagles have snapped at a collegiate level. It doesn't have to be the Philly special or anything else. It can be rumble, big man, like Refrigerator Perry. Jason Kelce on the way out. Nick Sirianni wants to give him a parting gift, which is to be the only Kelce to score in the Super Bowl. But I'll settle for both Kelce's.
I think Ben hammered that already.
Oh yeah, sure.
He's
Maxed
capped.
it out.
He's capped at $25. They know him.
Ben and I aren't going anywhere either. Eytan's got
I'm out.
Deeper dive coming up right after this, fellas. Don't go anywhere.
All right.
Sorry, Eytan. I wasn't trying to close that out.
No, you should. You should. We were late.
Okay, I was just trying. Yo, it's that time of week again. We're back to induct you fine people into the Hall of Fame right here at Stochastic.com and give out some Stochastic Plus Platinum memberships, $120 value. All you need to do to get involved, get yourself up here, get the free month, is go to Stochastic.com/avatar, download the avatar, use it wherever you play. And when you win, finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. Tweet your wins at Stochastic HOF on Twitter, at Stochastic Hall of Fame. Get your free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum, and I'll induct you right here every single week. And we got some great ones today, kicking it off with Mike Jasbeck. Yet another reason why Stochastic DFS is the best of the best. Tools are second to none. They provide absolute best content out there. Shout out to all the guys who do the live shows. Keep the amazing content coming, fellas, and thanks for all you do. $20,000 win, second place in the Thursday NBA shot. Great way to kick this one off. But also, how about Avi? Avi's always hanging out with us, been kind and generous with his super chats over the years. We appreciate you. I know who you are, man. Thanks for the tips. Biggest win of my life, $20,000, another second place in the NBA shot. And then you got our boy Greg Ehrenberg going back to back. Spent most of the night complaining about DFS slate, turned the games off to go to bed, woke up to find the slate actually wasn't bad. $5,000. How about that? First place in the NBA shot. And then Greg Ehrenberg again. The people who thought I could only win with 600 lineups are in shambles. I came in first in a 20 max entry contest last night with only 40 lineups. What are the haters going to say this time? Shout out to our boy Greg. You'll see him right after this on Live Before Live. And then Smitty, 1,850, a very simple man at Stochastic Hall of Fame. Nice win there, man. Matt Fukuda at Stochastic actually ran good tonight. Thanks, Greg and Neil and the entire Stochastic crew. $1,600 win over there on DraftKings. Shout out to you, Matt. And also to Zachary Williamson. Stat correction placed me above a 7-man train. $500 swing. Took second place in the end one. That's huge. Followed up by Kenny Herron. Shout out to the entire Stochastic team, but especially Josh Ingham. Josh getting the personalized shout out for the process show. Yep, 6:30 a.m. Monday through Friday. And Greg killing it every day on Live Before Lock. Give me that free month. You got it, brother. First place in the Hot Shot, $750. And then how about we've got Jim McCorkle. I love the tools and the shows. I'm really starting to see the results. Almost got to the top of the mountain. It's been a while. Thanks to Castic. Hey, still enough to get you in the door. 252nd in the NHL hip check. Followed up by Pete Prado. Holy crap, on the first day I purchased and used the lineup generator. You guys rock. So $30 win here, but guess what? $120 subscription. Free. And inducted in the Hall of Fame for Pete here. Four times what he just made on that. But look at it, lineup generator, first day. Throws some entries into the quarter jukebox and takes down first place. Great stuff, Pete. And Pedro, I love seeing this. The NBA Bet Pro tool is brand new. The first week is entirely free. Pedro says, thanks to Kasich. Hit this parlay last night. Best tool in the game is NBA Bet Pro. 51 in the 720, 4-leg parlay. And then Pedro hits us with another one. NBA Bet Pro on point. Thanks to Kastic. $10 into $1,600 parlay. What are we looking at? 7 legs in that one? Yeah. Gotta love it, man. Gotta love it. And we close it with the professor. Trust the projections. Thanks to the team. Solid win during a little fantasy slump. This dude just went on an absolute tear with the parlays. Shout out to the professor and everybody else. Welcome to the Stochastic Hall of Fame. You've now been inducted. Collect your free subscriptions for the month. And remember, download the Stochastic Avatar. It's stochastic.com/avatar. Tweet your wins at Stochastic HOF, and we're rocking. Do you really think these might be aliens?
No, but it's higher than if there were no things.
You know what, Ben? Maybe someone commandeered all the world's ants and put them in a balloon.
Better hope not. I'd rather have it be aliens.
What do you think the odds are that these are aliens that we're shooting down?
Higher chance than Clyde Edwards-Helaire being relevant in this game.
Higher chance. Well, you should have said Ronald Jones playing.
Well, that's a mortal lock.
I don't know, man. It's China. China. We'll just go with China here. I think that makes more sense, right? All right, fine. It's fucking aliens. What's going on?
What do I know?
Everybody, welcome to the Stochastic.com NFL Deeper Dive Super Bowl 57 edition. We are back, baby, for the last time this season. Let's live it up. Have a great show, win some money, and go about our business heading into the off season. It's a bittersweet moment today. This is it. I mean, this is literally it. I've said it a bunch. Like, oh, this is the last show for this we'll do. And then this is the last show that the three of us are going to do together. So very happy to have all of you guys with us. Hey, hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. I mean, listen, fun show before this. Thank you guys for being with us. But the like numbers, I mean, they're lacking. We got 1,200 people with us right now, 244 likes. Take a single second and atone for your sins. Wash yourselves clean of that stench on a Sunday. All right? It's a Sunday. Good time to atone. Subscribe to the channel as well. You can follow me at Laffy_D on Twitter. You should also, while you're there, say hello to Alex Baker at Awesemo DFS, joining us after we just did a wild betting show. What's happening, brother? Good to see you for the last time of the year.
What's up, guys? Damn, Laffy, you're not gonna jump on one of these golf streams, so we gotta keep it going. But I just spent my first octopus thanks to Eytan on the last show. I didn't know what that was, but it sounds like fun, and that's it's like we're trying to make some money, but it's not bad to throw in some fun bets here and there. If you guys got any tips? Have you got any tips on the Gatorade color? Like, I needed some picks.
Well, let me tell you, if you haven't seen, and this is not a read, this is the honest to God's truth. You have not seen Eytan's Gatorade video. Go to OddsShopper YouTube. I don't know how he pulled this off. It is maybe the best piece of content we've ever done. It is absurd. Have you seen it, Laffy?
Oh yeah, everybody needs an Eytan, right? Like, it's absurd. If you've got Alex going, hey, octopus sounds fun. Let me get octopus. Yeah, why not? Get an octopus in there. Then we know everyone needs an octopus. Jordan Klein producing this one, and that's Ben Rasa, but you already know at JazzRez DFS, Alex at Awesemo DFS, me at Loughy_D. Come say hello. Today's going to be a tilt fest for me, I assume, or it's going to go well, and I'll be radio silent. But we've got one game to talk about. We're going to go position by position here. Kansas City Chiefs getting the 1.5 against the Philadelphia Eagles. And we're going to go quarterback, running back, wide receiver. Maybe we'll just mix wide receiver and tight end together. It generally happens that way, given the two of the best options are at those positions anyway. And then we'll get into a little kicker defense. We'll build a lineup. We'll toss this one over to Eric Lindquist and Matt Gajewski for Live Before Lock. And then we'll watch the Super Bowl, baby. So let's make this happen. Appreciate you. We're up at 300 likes already, so we're in business. This is a good start. Ben, if I had to ask your thoughts, now it is a Super Bowl. People do stuff, so we might not have the same concurrent viewership for a one-game slate. Bake all of that in. I think 500 is easy money, but where do we go above that?
Yeah, I do think that 500 is pretty easy money, but closer we get to game time, and we still got some time, but people are doing shit. Like I totally get a lot of people they're watching us, but they're getting ready for some things. So I don't think the likes are going to push more than we were just talking about before the show. Actually, this is perfect. We're just talking about hell for different reasons. Won't go above 666.
Okay.
There you go. That's a fair number. That's going to be tough to clear.
Yeah. Ben said he didn't believe in aliens, and I said, well, he said, but I hope this isn't aliens. And I said, well, atheists aren't worried about hell. And he says, yeah, but if I end up in hell, I'll be pretty worried. So essentially, that's where this came from. We'll hit that number. I don't like that number, to be honest with you. I'm uncomfortable with that number.
Yeah, me too. I was just trying to get a barometer in the mid sixes. How's that?
Okay. I don't like it. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't support that number. All right. Yeah, 777 for good vibes would have been a better way.
We'll go casino. That's even better. Even though those slots are a money pit, you got a better chance of making money watching the show than pulling the lever, hoping for 777. I've done that.
There's a reason slots don't do 666. You're right. Yeah. All right. Let's dive into this. I love that you guys are with us for the last game of the season. We wouldn't have it any other way. Alex at quarterback. Let's dive into this. And of course, all of our tools, whether you're looking at ownership projections or honestly, just go to the single game showdown top plays tool where you have everything in there already. Ownership, captain percentage, captain ownership, utility, you name it, everything. Optimal lineup score, top play probability, leverage score. When it comes to Jalen Hurts and Mahomes, they're both great plays, Alex, but from the lineups you've built, is there a specific direction you want to take? Like maybe playing a lot of it with both of them in the flex, playing a lot with just one of them, captaining one or the other. Like, how do you play this today? Because they're expensive, but they're also in phenomenal spots.
Yeah, I mean, Hurts and Mahomes, they're definitely scary fades. Of course, it is really tough to fit them both in a lineup. So I think there's something to the idea of captaining someone cheaper so you can get both Hurts and Mahomes. As far as a lean between the two, I guess I would lean more towards Mahomes or just like in roster construction in general, because when I'm looking at the draft screen, it's like telling me to play Hurts. I feel like he's going to be more popular than Mahomes, but I mean, they're both equal plays in my eyes. So that's why I might roll with Mahomes.
Ben, is there a specific way that you're playing this? Again, from a strategy standpoint, I don't need to tell anybody. You don't need to tell anybody that, like, hey, you know, Mahomes is a good play today, or Hurts is a good play. Actually, Matt Gajewski and I on the matchup show, the strategy show on Friday, we built a couple lineups with Mahomes and Hurts in the flex, and I mean, we've seen it many times. Like an AJ Brown has a big game, or someone. There are a lot of ways for that to play out today. It's not difficult to build lineups you really like with both quarterbacks in the flex.
No, not at all. And it's funny, before the show, I was playing with the lineup generator where you can kind of craft out your narratives and kind of spin the wheel and see what you get. And some of those lineups are definitely interesting. We know these are going to be probably the two highest owned players. They should be. I think the big difference for me, not in terms of priority wise, is that with Mahomes, you can always say there's outliers, but particularly with the ankle, it would seem like if he has a huge game, there are multiple Chiefs players that are in really good positions to take advantage. There are real scenarios where Jalen Hurts has a huge game, and it's because he runs wild. I know we haven't seen in the last couple games, but Jalen Hurts has that additional out, and I think that's what makes it super unique. You can have like Jalen Hurts solo, like I'll get right to a crazy construction. What if you go Chiefs onslaught with just Jalen Hurts on the other side? That's the type of weird stuff I think we should get into the weeds on today, because we're trying to beat hundreds of thousands of people with a finite amount of options.
Okay. Captain, though, like full out onslaught with the opposing quarterback captain.
I mean, that's extra dangerous, but honestly, I think weird permutations like that are underutilized. And again, I'll reference the lineup generator. When I was playing around with some of the more aggressive builds, I was getting to some stuff that I actually really liked. And it was that type of mentality where it's just like very counterintuitive onslaughts for either side. But I think most people, when they think of onslaughts in this game, are thinking 5 Eagles and 1 Chief.
What are your thoughts on that, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, I think onslaughts either way are pretty strong DFS plays, because everyone's going to be thinking this is going to be a high scoring game. But I mean, there's been a lot of Super Bowls that have been pretty crappy games, to be honest. Like that Tampa Kansas City one a couple of years ago, that was just like painful to watch. So while everyone's rooting for both teams to play hard, I'm gonna be rooting for a bunch of like field goals and special teams, because one of the easiest ways to make the onslaught is you get that defense and kicker in there.
Yeah, and Ben was talking about using the lineup generator. So with the lineup generator, of course, Jordan just had it on the screen. You can massage the settings to the way that you want, in the sense of like, if you think the game goes this way, you can put this score in and you can get lineups built around that, which is just amazing. Also, we have it for NBA. We have this lineup generator for NBA as well. Not for showdown yet, but just anything, whether you want chalky lineups, contrarian lineups, all lineups. And it's it's half off for the first week. Dude just won 50K with it, tweeted us. Someone else just won 10K. Someone else just won, I think, 4,000, all within a week. So link to that's in the description and in chat. This thing's awesome. And why not use it now and then just rip off every day of NBA until the All-Star break and see if you like it or not. It's like 425 or something, 442 maybe, I think, for the first week. If you're playing even $1 per day, this is paying for itself. So check it out. But when you were doing this, what type of scenarios were you putting into the lineup generator?
So yeah, I mean, go ahead, please.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I made some lineups on one of the VODs with the lineup generator, and like my favorite setting is pick both teams to do poorly because like most people, especially when you're building a lineup that's gonna like have a high fantasy projection, that is usually going to be like both teams to like perform well because there's a lot of like offensive players. But like when the defense does well, like that means there's less fantasy scoring usually. So it's like going for those times where you only need 100 fantasy points to take down GPP. It's not like often, but it's unlikely that people are going to be trying to like get the right lineup for that situation.
Yeah, same question for you then too, Ben.
Yeah, I think that a lot of this is just game theory. That's why I like the tools, because you can kind of say, okay, most people, what are they going to boost? Like, oh, both teams up an extra touchdown. I want a crazy fun game. And that's awesome. You can do that and see what it says. But who the hell is thinking like, you know what, I want a rock fight, a game where both teams struggle. You can get to some lineups and you know automatically a lot of the crowd is not going to be with you. And a lot of showdown is finding those little edges. And this is why, like I said, I've been sitting around just playing. It's just fun to spin the wheel and see what you get, like if nothing else. That's why I like this. It's so easy to generate the lineups. You get a sense of where the crowd might be with different scenarios.
Yeah, no doubt. And first week, like I said, half off. It's like $4. Links in the description and chat. Awesome tool. If we're talking about running backs, though, it starts to get interesting, Ben, because we just don't see a lot of teams these days that have like a 100% dominated backfield by a certain player. Now, you could, of course, make the argument that it's going to be all Miles Sanders today. That's fair. I think it's also very reasonable to say that that you have Kenny Gainwell, who is the 2-minute drill guy, and they will use him as a pass catcher over Miles Sanders, who is never used in that sense. But Miles Sanders should still see the majority of carries. Price points are way different there. And then on the Kansas City side, you have Isaiah Pacheco, but you also have Jerick McKinnon. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was elevated from the IR. He's expected to play. But again, with the Kansas City backfield, yes, it looks like this is Pacheco's backfield, particularly last game. He played a season high 57% of snaps, outran McKinnon in routes 26-16. Like, there is no clear definitive bell cow back that's getting all of the work on all 3 downs on either teams, which makes this a unique situation.
Very difficult situation, but at the same time, these are talented guys, explosive guys, which gives them a lot of relevancy because in one game, like Pacheco runs hard, it's fast. Sanders, same thing. And the thing that I'm encouraged by on the Kansas City side with Pacheco, we hadn't really seen that game with target. He had 6 targets against Cincinnati. He hadn't had more than 2 targets in any game the whole year, and they seemed more than content to do that. So we know that's in the range of outcomes now. I think that's a pretty positive development. We had a lot of questions on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I have no idea, but I don't think he's going to be relevant to the slate. I'm really cutting it with McKinnon and Pacheco, Gainwell and Sanders. Boston Scott and Clyde Edwards-Helaire are afterthoughts for me today.
I truly would be shocked if Clyde Edwards-Helaire comes in and is like used even more than a tiny bit. Like, he was already losing opportunities, Alex, before he got hurt, all the way back in week 11.
Yeah, I haven't seen a ton of the CEH hype, but it sounds like there has been, though. So it's like,
well, you know what it is? It's a lot of people asking questions in DFS formats about him because everyone's looking for that low-owned guy that, nobody's talking about.
Right. Yeah, I think that that one's tough because it sounds like everyone is talking about him to some extent, like a lot more than they should be. So, like, if you're looking for someone low owned, it probably makes sense to try to go someone that's like Jody Fortson, or they're going to be at least playing today. Or can't really say the same with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. With him, it's like a sweat to see if he's even active for the game.
So how do you approach the running back position with Kansas City specifically?
Yeah, I think this one's tough because everyone loves to play McKinnon. And then Pacheco, he had that hot game last game. So I don't think he's going to be like nearly as sneaky as he was last time. So, well, actually, now that I'm looking at the box score, I thought he had a hot game, but it actually just amounted to 13 fantasy points. So nothing too crazy. I think he was in the winning lineup, but my memory's a little foggy. It's like 2 weeks ago. It's at 1. So, but yeah, I think both of them are okay plays, but I don't know if I really like trust either one a ton. So they're just kind of rotational plays for me.
Okay. Oh, is your highest owned running back going to be Pacheco, Ben?
Yeah, I think so. Particularly just because we'll talk about how difficult it is with the Kansas City wide receivers. The Eagles, I've said it twice and I've been wrong both times. I thought against the Giants and the Niners, AJ Brown and co are going to need to do more than 30-point beatdowns. I think today the Eagles will have to do more on the outside. So kind of by process of elimination, I think Pacheco fits a lot of different builds for me. And if the Chiefs go down, he's not phased out by any stretch. I'm still very comfortable with that.
What do you want to do with Sanders and Gainwell? Like, I know you said you don't think, like, okay, so you are of the mindset, as am I, that Boston Scott might not touch the football, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
And that Clyde Edwards-Helaire might not touch the football. If he's even, like, is he even going to be active? I mean, you would think he's going to be active and Jones is inactive, right?
Well, it's tough because the reason he got called up to the roster is because they put McCole Hardman on IR. So it's hard to like really take a ton from that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to say. I mean, okay. So then Ben, how often do you think Boston Scott touches the football today?
So there's certainly, we've seen this 2 weeks in a row. If the Eagles are blown out, or more importantly, blow out the Chiefs, I think he would and could. But if it's a close game, I don't see it. I really don't. And so maybe in specific builds where I think it's like 40 to 13 or something, but outside of that, I don't see the need to get to him.
What about the disparity in Sanders and Gainwell's price points? I want to dig into this a little bit.
This is where it gets tougher because I don't think, and I think you agree, Kenny Gainwell didn't get major volume solely because of a blowout. He's just good. I think he's an actual part of this offense and someone that we need to take notice of. A couple of targets. He can catch the ball. Now, double-digit carries, that's just a product of just such volume on the rush side. I'm going to go to oddshopper.com for reference here. I go to the compare tool. Kenneth Gainwell's rushing attempts prop is at 4.5 today. That's a far cry from 12 and 14 carries in the 2 playoff games. So I'm using that as a point of reference. I do think he's going to get 5, 6, 7 carries, and I don't mind him, but I still think this is Sanders' backfield more often than not.
Would you bet the over or under on Boston Scott's 7.5 rushing yards on FanDuel? -115, so no crazy juice. 7.5 rushing yards to Boston Scott.
I'd bet the under.
You would. What about you, Alex? Any thoughts here? Like, where are you at on Boston Scott and the non-Miles Sanders running backs? Because we've seen way too many occasions where the difference maker sometimes in these showdowns ends up being a, non-starter running back.
Yeah, I mean, Boston Scott's someone I'm not planning to play in DFS, to be honest, because he's on this 3-game touchdown streak, where, I mean, he's been getting a good workload, but I agree with you guys that it's more of a game flow thing than anything, and they just, like, if they run the ball a lot, that's going to benefit Boston Scott, but I just feel like that's a risky play that's going to be popular, so that's definitely a fade. Where, yeah, I think Gainwell and Sanders are fine plays, but nothing I'm getting super excited about. I'd probably rather just go with kicker or defense.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you. So if you're playing for low-scoring games, which you talked about earlier, that's not leading to more running backs for you. That's actually leading to, I mean, obviously more kickers and defense, but what do the rest of those lineups look like if it's not a lot of running backs?
Yeah, I think, well, it's particularly relevant with like Gainwell because he's like a little bit more expensive than a kicker.
Yep.
And the question is one of these less involved skill players going to outscore, like 8 to 10 fantasy points, because that's what kickers usually get in a good game. So it's usually a good bet when the workloads are pretty condensed among a few players. So like the kickers really just have to get by Boston Scott, Gainwell, like Watson, Sky Moore, like all these guys that are not going to be like super involved today. So I'll take my chances there. Gainwell, like you gotta think he's got to get a lot of volume or a touchdown to crack the winning lineup, and I don't love his odds for either of those.
Steve McGee, member for 21 months. Yeah, you guys want to join, you can hit that join down below. He's got the sweet badges, the free super chats each month, the custom emojis. We do some other stuff along the way too. Alex, you're the GOAT. Thanks for creating a fun family. Nice. Little shout out to you, Alex, from Steve McGee.
Yeah, thanks,
and
Steve.
Sammy, Buffalo War Pigs. Awesemo changed my life. Signed the Buffalo War Pigs. All right.
Oh yeah, Sammy's been around forever, man.
Dude, he's been around for a long time, and we appreciate him for it. Any other thoughts on running backs, Ben, from a strategy standpoint, and less of like I do or don't want to play this guy? Like, do you have any lineups with 2 running backs from the same team?
I definitely am not opposed to that. We even talked about on like the 2-game slates that you could, the P. Ryan Mixon and McKinnon and Pacheco. So again, I'm going to reference the generator because that's what I've been using for Showdown. Confined it into my process, and I'm fine with Pacheco and McKinnon together. Gainwell and Sanders also fine with it, but I think Kansas City, just the way they play, it's even more useful to do it like that. And I will say the link wasn't in there. It is now in there. If you are looking to get on that lineup generator, 50% off lineup generator right in the description. Mr. Klein, my man behind the glass, if you can just throw it in chat for us, for the people. But I've been playing with those lineups, especially the ones Alex mentioned, lower scoring. And in that, if these guys are getting dump offs, and we know McKinnon can catch the ball, Pacheco, if he's going to get 5-6 targets, they can coexist together even without touchdowns needed in a lower scoring game.
I still have this uncomfortable feeling that McKinnon ends up,
I hope not.
back. What?
I hope not. I know where you're going with this.
That he ends up going back to the guy that has like a 9-target game.
That would be not good for me.
It's in the cards. It's in the realm of possibility, I think. Like, obviously, Pacheco has proven that he is talented as a pass catcher, that he's good after the catch. He's got speed. McKinnon was still targeted 4 times last game to Pacheco's 6. So it wasn't like a 8-0 split in targets. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know. Of course. I mean, McKinnon is still but I'll be honest, we have talked about this on several shows this week, and you have said basically every time you're not ready to hand the keys off to Pacheco in this backfield. You don't think it's just his. And I've kind of said, I think it is. I think that Pacheco will have first crack at both the carries and the targets. And I think he should. I think he's a fantastic player.
All right. Let's talk wide receivers here. By the way, hit that thumbs up. Almost at 425 till we get there. Thank you guys in advance, because we will. But at wide receiver, Alex, I think we should probably just include Kelce and Goddard in this conversation as well, because you're talking about, one of the most expensive players on the entire slate. It would be, it doesn't make sense for us to just talk about them separately at tight end. At wide receiver, you have AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and I'll include Dallas Goedert. Like I said, we'll say pass catchers here. Those 3 guys. And then we'll get into some cheap talk with like a Quez Watkins. Pretty condensed as far as those 3 go in this rotation for the Philadelphia Eagles. But I want to start with Kansas City and I want you to dive in here for us, because you've got Travis Kelce, and then with Mecole Hardman out, he's been ruled out. You still have Kadarius Toney, Juju Smith-Schuster. Like I said, Travis Kelce, who knows? Does Justin Watson get involved? You have MVS. They have a lot of guys that Mahomes can throw the ball to. And when they're all relatively healthy, unlike the conference championships, you're definitely looking at a game where outside of Kelce, it could be anyone's game for this Kansas City team. So how do you deal with that on a showdown slate?
Yeah, it's going to be tricky because Juju Smith-Schuster, he would be the number 1 guy to go to. However, he's there's been this rumor about some sort of injury that he's been dealing with. So that kind of explains why maybe his performances have been honestly dreadful over the last 5 games. So sort of have a lot of confidence, but I'm willing to give it a shot. MVS, he's super inconsistent. He's coming off a really good game. So he's probably going to be a little bit more popular. And then Toney, it's like they really try to get him the ball when he, like, last game he was injured, so I'm not really reading a ton into that. 2 fantasy points. I think he's, a decent dart throw play. Juju's probably my favorite. After that, I'm pretty indifferent, to be honest.
Okay. Josh Engelman making an appearance.
Of course he is.
Super Bowl Sunday. What's up, brother? Ben, with Kansas City, because we're going to spend some time on Philly, but I don't think we'd be doing anyone any favors if we didn't really dig into, like, I like Toney in this spot. I think you're getting him at a pretty respectable price point. You're not massively overpaying for him. I'm not excited about anyone not named Travis Kelce, and anyone who tries to make the argument there's just a very clear option. I think like the Eagles got Avonte Maddox back too, so this isn't like this is still a team that, do they maybe struggle a little more in the middle of the field, like slot corner? I guess, but like Toney, they're going to get the ball and maybe he can just make something happen in space if they get it to him around the line of scrimmage. With MVS, when everyone else is healthy, that gets pretty ugly. Juju Smith-Schuster has looked like a shell of himself. He's had a couple games this season where you go, oh, damn, he looks good. And then he resorts back to, 3 or 4 targets and generally underwhelming performance. How do you prioritize the non-Kelce players in Kansas City?
So yeah, listen, the reality of the situation is what you just said. I don't know how you hone in on one of them and say, this is the guy. That's just not how the Chiefs operate. Injuries have made it even more difficult. The last game, MVS was great, but they at one point legitimately were out of options. Everybody got hurt. So I don't know if we're just going to see him, eight targets, 6 for 116 and a touchdown, not even just the output, but the opportunity. And as much as he's looked like a shell of himself, Juju, when you look at the snap counts, was one of the more reliable guys on the field for the Chiefs. He was out there a ton. He played 85%. In the previous game, he got banged up there, so he's down to 45% when MVS was by far the guy who was out there the most. Tony's more of a gadget player. He has trouble staying healthy. Hardman's out of the picture. Sky Moore and Watson, I think, are fringe. So I'm going to say Juju still, but I don't feel confident about it. No, he has not looked good at all.
Who is your least favorite of that group? Not going all the way down to like the Sky Moores and the Justin Watsons. So Justin Watson was out with an illness in that last game too.
When you say the group, are you like how many players are you talking about?
MVS, Juju, Kadarius Toney, right? Like I'd say those three really, right?
Yeah, I think that my least favorite would be Toney still. MVS is tricky. If he's getting, and I'll rely on our tools, of course, for this. And right now, it doesn't look like it. If people are playing recency bias and MVS is over-owned, I'll gladly live with coming in underweight just because I don't see much correlation between the last game and this game. But all things being equal on the ownership front, I think I would put Toney behind him still.
Okay. Alex, do you see any good value for Kansas City pass catchers today? I know there's a lot of them. Is there anyone out there that you say, hey, he's cheap? Maybe he catches a deep ball. Maybe there's a couple targets that come his way and we end up needing him to get that winning lineup in a massive field today if you're playing in the Millie Maker.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Watson fits the bill. He's been pretty involved. He's only 2K and he played on, well, he was inactive last game due to injury, but before that, he was playing on about 50% of the routes. He's not very targeted, but you only need to get one deep ball to break a slate. So I do feel like people might sleep on Justin Watson.
Ben, you have any of these cheap guys? Because I think, and Matt Gajewski said it too, Watson's not the craziest play here. It's just you'd never play him on a main slate. You'd never play him on a 3-game slate, really. But we're down to 1 game.
Oh, yeah. You have to listen. It's with teams like this, if you're on the field, you got a chance. Like, that's the reality of it. And I think it's better when the guy himself is explosive. And a lot of these guys are big-time playmakers where we'll talk about Quez Watkins in a second. Tony's like that. 2 touches, it's not optimal, but if one goes for 70 yards, it's going to be. So I think you can look to that. Watson at least will have some opportunities in terms of snap count. I'm not sure I want to go that much further. Like, Sky Moore, there's not that much left after that. I don't think I'm going to reach that much further.
What about on the Eagles side? And I want to get into not just whether or not they're good plays, but really, kind of lineup theory here, game theory here, lineup strategy. By the way, Neil's article, the free article, was awesome. I read that earlier today. Really, really good for DFS Super Bowl showdown strategy. You should check that out over at Stochastic. But with Philly, it is kind of condensed. And you have Goddard, Devonta Smith, AJ Brown. AJ Brown, monster after the catch, going to be targeted downfield. You could make the argument that the matchup is better for Devonta Smith, and I wouldn't go against you on that. But I know how you feel about AJ Brown today. You would think that he's going to see a good amount of targets. The question, of course, hey, is Jalen Hurts healthy? Someone asked that earlier. They said he didn't look great in the first 2 games of the put. We don't know. Like, anyone pretending that they know whether he just had bad games or now 2 weeks removed from the last game, whether he's healthy or not, you don't know the answer to that.
No doubt about it. We don't know. And I think we're going to find out today, though, because I expect him to have to run and to do some of these things. I really like AJ Brown. It's been my favorite over on the Odd Chopper YouTube channel, talking bets, props. I think he's a guy that would have had monster potential in the last 2 games and they didn't need him. He has 14 targets in the playoffs. in games that were 31 and 24 point wins. So I expect the volume to be up there. Certainly not going to push back on, the more concentrated offense in Smith and Goddard. Wes Watkins is the other guy there. And then of course that backfield, which we talked about. So I don't think it's as difficult to break down Philly just from a personnel standpoint. Cause to me, the Chiefs carry 25 receivers somehow, which seems illegal, but they get away with it. There's so many guys.
They have a lot. Alex, do you have a preference here between Brown and Smith?
Honestly, I guess not. I mean, for a while, Brown seemed to be far in the lead between the two, but Smith has had some strong performances at the close out the season, so it's hard to really pick between them. They're both good plays, albeit very popular.
AJ Brown, 10% captain ownership in our top plays tool. Devonta Smith, 9%. AJ Brown, 7.6% top play probability. Devonta Smith, 7.1. Smith has a slightly higher leverage score, Ben, at 3.8 in our tool, 2.4 for AJ Brown. But man, across the board, you look at optimal utility play, optimal flex play, 39.6% to Devonta Smith, 40% to AJ Brown. Utility ownership, 35.7% to Devonta Smith, 36.6% to AJ Brown. There's essentially nothing that separates these guys outside of a few $100s today, according to our tools, at least.
And I tend to agree with that. It seems like a coin flip. The field is viewing it as a coin flip. You mentioned, like, when you have two guys like that, if one is 50% owned and one is 13% owned, well, the decision is kind of made for you. But we don't have that case here. Everyone's viewing them the same. So I hope to have a healthy amount of both. Just call it gut feel. I do lean AJ Brown. That's kind of where I'm going here. But I like Devonta Smith quite a bit as well.
Okay. What about Quez? I know Eytan was talking about a rogue Quez anytime touchdown earlier in the show. Well, earlier in the stream, last show, of course. He's he's no top play, 0% top play probability, but he's getting about 12% ownership in the utility spot, 15% optimal utility play. So Quez actually doesn't 3.6 positive, pretty significant positive leverage too. So as frustrating as this guy is, maybe there's some merit.
I think there is. And the thing that I want to reference for a guy like that, Quez Watkins is not a volume-based guy. He's an electric player. Yeah. If he gets in the open field, that's going to do it. That's all. That's all you need. And that can happen on 1 touch, 3 touches. He doesn't need 15, looks or anything like that. That would be nice. But as a GP, I tend to like guys where I know if I get lucky, I'm going to maximize that value. And Quez Watkins checks all those boxes. He could come and get 0. That's very, very live here. But if he gets in the open field, he could be the type of guy that pops up on some pertinent lineups.
Should his longest reception prop be the same as his yardage prop?
It should be even more, because if he gets another one, it's going to be a screen pass behind the line and he's going to lose a couple yards. Yeah, for a loss.
Alex, do you have any interest in Quez?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm looking at anyone that's going to be on the field a lot, and he's been around 50%, 60% most games. So as a big play threat, I think he's pretty good. The other guy I'm kind of looking at is Zach Pascal. He's really the only wide receiver that's, besides those 3, that's been getting playing time. In the last 2 weeks, he's been on the field a little bit more than a third of plays. So he's kind of like Quez Watkins, but just a lower percentage play. But since it's such a big field today, I want to take some shots.
Okay. Time to talk tight ends here as well. And one more question for you, Alex, before we dive into this. Is there are there any cheap options that you have decent exposure to at the captain spot today?
Oh yeah, I feel like going cheap at captain. I don't like going super cheap, like the $200 guy, because like more people do than you expect, and then you all have the same lineup basically. So, but I do have some exposure to guys like Pacheco, Goddard. I wonder if I might have some defense and captain. I think that's probably the lowest I'd go.
What about you, Ben?
Yeah, I'm not looking. If you get, and Alex has talked about this throughout the year a lot, if you go too low at captain, you have so much money left that you end up duping with a lot of people. So like, I don't love that strategy, but a defense or someone in that mid-range, if you strike gold with one of the Chiefs wide receivers, there's so many of them, they could be interesting captains. It's low probability, but high upside. So I'm going to be living in the mid-range with captains. I don't have many, if any, teams where it's like an actual like min-priced guy at captain. I don't like that build here.
That is a good point, though. Like if you're just talking, hey, play for variance, Chiefs, like Schuster 4.5% captain ownership, McKinnon 4%, MVS 2%, Tony 2% ownership at captain. Who knows? Maybe it just happens to be one of their days. Which how many times have we seen that this season? When it's not Kelsey, it's one of them. Just not easy to get right.
And if you do happen to get it right, you're not going to be with a ton of people. That would go a long way.
All right, let's talk tight ends here. I lied. We're gonna go with tight ends now. Before we do though, shout out to No House Advantage, man. First off, first match deposit bonus up to $100, which means if you put $100 in, you look at your account, it says $200 after that. Okay, that's a fantastic thing to have there. Not like some crazy drip bonus or nothing. And all of the tools are free over at stochastic.com. Why is that important? Well, if you're doing the pick'em contests, which have massive overlay, my guess right now is we're still like less than 40% filled on the one for the Super Bowl. It's 35% filled right now. $20,000 to first place, $20 entry, $100 deposit bonus, first match deposit bonus. That's $20,000 up top. Or let's say you play pick'em. You could not find like these lines are so beatable. It's insane. That's why we have the tool. Like if you're just use the tool for something like that and find the best spots, you could go to our No House Advantage tool and you see it right now. By the way, like I said, the overlay on this is one thing, the deposit bonus, all of that, but the free tools are massive. And just looking at it, like there's so many spots where it's like, oh, that has an 88. When I do the NBA show, it's like, oh, this has a 92% expected win rate, like on the over or on the under. And if you look at the other one, the pick'em or against the house, where if you hit all your picks, you're 21xing your entry. We got a tool for that too. Boys, I say we take a second here. We got plenty of time and live before lock coming up next. But what do you say? What do you say we build one out here? What do you say we build a card and try and 21x our entry today?
I mean, we went anytime touchdown score parlay with Eytan. If we can do that, we can do this. This has an actual chance. I'm game.
All right, Alex, I'm gonna go first. You good? You cool going second?
Yeah, this is versus the house.
Yeah, versus the house.
All right. Well, I was hoping to go first because
no, I'm doing that. Don't. I'm doing that. We're on the same wavelength on that one.
Okay.
I'm going first, and I'm taking the free square. Patrick Mahomes under. Be careful. Under 1,500 passing yards. They're free squaring us up out of the gate here. So we need to do nothing outside of go to Patrick Mahomes under 1,500 receiving yards, free square. Don't do anything different. That is where you start. What do you got next, Alex?
I mean, we could go for a challenge and say under 297.5 because it looks like that's an option too. But we'll take under 1,000. I'll say Sanders under rushing is one of my favorites. They have his line. Let me see what the line is right now. It's 61.5 still. And I just feel like in a lot of game scripts, the Eagles are going to have to come from behind and pass more than they usually do. So that's really the logic here.
All right. And our sim win has that 74% sim win percentage to the under. So I like that. Throw Sanders in there too. What do you got, Ben?
Yeah. So there's just so many different spots that you can go. And I'm looking right now. Again, I'm just going to go to our tool right now just to confirm. I'm a little interested to see. Yeah, here, this is what we have here. Slight under, but still an under. I'm going to go on Juju's receptions. They have it at 3.5. A lot of books have it at 2.5. If it was at 2.5, I'd be saying go over because, again, there's no juice attached to this. But at 3.5, I think we can go under here and say, okay, Juju, couple catches, that's in the range for this. And if he has a big game, got him on some of the other sites, the best of both worlds.
All right. So I like this. And we don't have to worry about correlation here, right? Like we don't have to worry about a same game parlay where the correlated odds, they just they bend you over, right? I'm going over on Kadarius Toney receptions. I mean, over 1.5 receptions is beautiful. Were you going there next, Alex? I saw that face.
No, I'm just trying to like get all these in my card here.
Okay. Oh wait, did they take the Toney one off? Did they take the reception
They have
off?
The receiving yards.
Oh, they
27.5 is there. 1.5 was that jumped off the page to me too, but that's why I went Juju.
Okay, they took it off. Damn that. Okay, I know where I'll go with this one then. I'll go. I'm going over on Kenny Gainwell rushing yards because we have the under, but I want the over because we took the under on Miles Sanders too. We took the under on Miles Sanders. No, I'm going to hit the rushing prop then, Ben. How about that? Instead, I'll hit the rushing prop over 4.5 rushing attempts for Gainwell.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is the beauty of it, and that's why I really love what No House Advantage is doing. You have so many different options that you can shop around and find the one that fits your card best. So, like, even with Gainwell, when you were doing that, I was looking at rushing plus receiving, rushing yards, receptions, all different things. So I like it.
All right, give me over 4.5 rushing attempts. What do you have, Alex? Is this our last one? Yeah, this is our last one. Wrap us up.
All right, I'm looking at this TJ Edwards 8.5 tackles line. He like I'm sure he's a great player, but 8.5 tackles, it sounds like a lot. So I'm going under on that one.
What a perfect way to round it out.
All right, there you have it. TJ Edwards under 8.5 tackles. That'll wrap it up. Up to $100 first match deposit bonus. Get in the pick 'em. Get in versus the house. 21 extra entry. Use all of our tools for free. Use them for NBA as well. The NBA ones are fantastic. Got them over at Odd Shopper Premium as well. Let's talk tight ends, fellas. When it comes to the tight end position, Ben, Travis Kelce, Dallas Goedert, there's not a whole lot to say about him. Goedert is, I say it every time we talk about this team. Excellent after the catch, targeted in the red zone. He is he is an integral part of this team. So is Travis Kelce. Two of the best options, in my opinion, from this game are both at the tight end position.
No doubt about it. I think the bigger question to me, we not breaking any news. You can use them if you can afford. Kelce's a great play. The next batch of tight ends, the guys behind them, where do they fit in versus the punt running backs versus the punt receivers? That's what I've been struggling with when you talk about, Jack Stoll or whoever Kansas City. It feels like, again, they've got like 9 different tight ends, but the Noah Grays of the world, like that's the type of play I'm trying to evaluate because we know Goddard and Kelce are fantastic plays, and I want to get a lot of exposure to both of them.
Alex, do you have any certain way you're playing Goddard and Kelce today? Like, are you, because when you're pairing Mahomes and Kelce, obviously it starts to get a bit difficult. Do you have a bunch of lineups that are just Mahomes and Kelce with no other pass catchers? Or are you stacking multiple pass catchers with Patrick Mahomes? Because he's not, listen, he can run a little bit. We don't know how the ankle is, but he's not as mobile. He doesn't have the same touchdown rushing upside as Jalen Hurts. How are you playing that from like stacking with Patrick Mahomes and usually starting with Kelce, I would assume?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think it depends who I have at captain. If I have Mahomes at captain, I'm definitely going to want more than Kelce, because if Kelce is the one that gets Mahomes there, then he's probably going to outscore Mahomes. So that's really kind of my logic there. If I have Kelce at captain, I'm definitely going to have Mahomes in more lineups than not. And then I'm not really concerned about any other players. If they're both in the flex, that means you're not thinking either one does like crazy good. So I think that would probably be just Mahomes and Kelce and not worry about stacking up more guys.
Do you think you'll have a decent amount of lineups with Mahomes and no Kelce?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that Kelce's expensive. The opportunity cost is you're foregoing like Hurts and other guys. So I think that Kelsey's by no means like a give me play or a lock play. So he's going to be in a lot of lineups, but I don't see a huge advantage over, like, say, Jalen Hurts.
What about you, Ben? Same question, just as far as like how tethered is Kelsey going to be to Mahomes for you today?
Of course, strong correlation, but the problem is on a showdown, when you play those two guys, you're allocating a ton of salary. And yes, it can work, but the permutations for the other sports 4 spots are not that easy to get to be different. So I think actually thinking opposite is like, okay, everyone that clicks Kelsey for the most part is going to click Mahomes. What if I do it differently? What if I split them on some teams? And I'm going to try to get away with that. That's where Juju and co really need to step up, because if Mahomes is going to get there and Kelsey isn't on that team, somebody else or Mahomes rushing somehow is going to have to step up.
You want to talk about some of these? Listen, it's not pretty, okay, but you've got. I don't think there's any argument for the non-Goddard tight ends for the Eagles. I do think there's an argument to be made if you wanted to talk about Noah Gray, or you've got so many of these other, like Jody Fortson. Does Jody Fortson get on the field and have 1 10-yard touchdown? I think Noah Gray is the obvious answer here. He did play 64% of snaps last game, most of them, not as a pass catching tight end, but he will be on the field a lot.
It's the Chiefs are so difficult because they do have a lot of guys. Like, he'll be on the field a lot. Will he be utilized? Probably not in a great role, but it's still, I agree with you. If I had to take a punt tight end from one of the teams, it would be on the Chiefs side, just because they're a much more dispersed offense, in my opinion. I'm not sure I'm going to need a ton of either, though. They might, like, Noah Gray might be in a couple of lineups, but I'm rather rolling the dice with like the Quez Watkins of the world rather than these guys if I had to make that choice.
Alex, do you have any dart throw tight ends that we haven't touched on?
Yeah, definitely Noah Gray. He fits the bill. He's been playing in the 40 to 50% of passing plays running a route. So he, like, not being that much more expensive than Jody Fortson, who has only been out there about 10 to 20% of the time. That's the easy one. On the Eagles side, Jack Stoll is the tight end too, but he's only been targeted 6% of the time, which is abysmal. So I don't know if I love that as play.
All right. Well, then there's nobody better before we go to build a lineup here, which should be fun to close this one out. We just built one for No House Advantage. That link's in the description and in chat. I'm assuming we will take advantage of something like that when there's just ample money to be made. But before we build a lineup we'll do one on DraftKings, straight, DFS form here. I think you're probably the appropriate guy to go to for kickers and defenses, Alex. Well, you said earlier, right? Like you plan on playing a lot of this. You plan on playing a lot of lineups, like with the lineup generator, where you're putting the inputs for that are going to be for a low scoring game in a lot of spots for you, at least, especially for the Super Bowl, where a lot of people are going to be playing for a high scoring game. How do you approach the kickers and the defenses today?
Yeah, I mean, for kickers, I pretty much outsource that to props, and Harrison Butker is more. Let's see what the prop is exactly. Okay, Harrison Butker on over 1.5 is minus 135, or Elliott 1.5 is minus 105. So the odds are much better that Butker gets not much better, but better that Butker gets 2 field goals, which is really what you need. So it's more than half the time. That's my lean there. As far as defense, I'm leaning towards the Eagles. Like, neither are going to be very popular, but Kansas City just has more dropbacks. That just is more scoring opportunities for the Eagles.
Ben?
Yeah, I don't see it much differently. These teams are a little tougher because both of them are pretty aggressive in my mind. There are opportunities for kickers to get points that will be taken away from them potentially, but they're also high octane offenses. So when you're around the red zone, you can just get lucky. You mentioned I would go to Vegas and just the books for my baseline on the kickers as well.
Let's build a lineup, boys. And I appreciate all you guys hanging with us. It's been an amazing season for sure. I'll say that now before we are up against it and have to run. Turn this one over to Eric and Matt for Live Before Lock. Much appreciated. I'm sure Alex and Ben feel the same way. So Let's do a Millie Maker lineup. Jordan already pulled our lineup builder up, and I think it's time to see what happens here. So, Alex, you go first. You go first, yeah. Captain spot, because I went first for No House Advantage and took the easy one. You go first. What do we got here for No House or for DraftKings Millie Maker lineup build?
All right, this one for Millie Maker I don't really feel strongly, but I do tend to like to go to the most expensive tier for the captain and leave money elsewhere. So Hurts might be my number one because he can score all the points himself. Where Mahomes, you gotta buy a lot of expensive pass catchers to make that work. So I go with Hurts.
Okay. So Ben, we got Hurts in at captain. That will, of course, make things complicated down the line, but that's the way it should be. Who do you want to go to next?
Yeah, that's a future problem. I'll leave that up to you guys. I'll go to the other direction. I'm going to put Pacheco in there. I think that he can survive in a lot of different game scripts. He's got highest snap count in that last game. I just like him, and I like the way he played 6 targets. Give me Pacheco in this lineup.
I like it. With Hurts, I like Dallas Goedert here quite a bit. I still think this price tag is more than reasonable on him. Like, I don't think there's any reason that Dallas Goedert and MVS should be the same price at all. If that last game with MVS didn't happen, where MVS got a boatload of targets based on the fact that everybody else was out, he would not be 6,200. So give me Dallas Goedert here. We have Hurts, Pacheco, Goddard, 6,500 per player remaining for the last 3. What do you have, Alex?
Well, shout out to Jorge Yacomi for the super chat. He says, well, thanks for the content through the football season. Sadly, never hit the Millie Maker thanks to Loughy. I can see why you didn't read this one, but still amazing content, tips, and new tools.
Dude, I didn't see it until right now.
Sure, likely story.
I don't know what he means, but probably said to play Miles Sanders one day.
Yeah, Jorge is awesome, guys. So I appreciate that.
He's been great all season long, man. I think he's probably gifted over 1,000 stochastic YouTube
Super generous.
Yeah, you're the man. Appreciate you, dude. I hope you have a great day. Enjoy it. Win some money. But we're not going anywhere, of course. Football will be back before you know it. We still got basketball, football, PGA, MMA, NHL, all that good stuff.
XFL.
XFL's coming up. You gonna do content?
No, but I know Matt Gajewski is. He is raring to go. There's no one I trust more than him in sports like that. We are going to make some money on XFL.
He's stoked about this. He really is. I'll tell him. I had a great time playing NFL and betting XFL. I mean, before the whole COVID nonsense. But Alex, we got 3 to go here. We are up against it. So what do you got for the next one?
All right, we need a Millie Maker, super crazy play. So I'm going with Zach Pascal.
Ooh.
He's gonna be on the field just enough.
Yeah, we do have to go crazy in one spot. Like, you're trying to win this. It's already 412,000 people in it. Like, this is gonna fill well before lock. Ben, that opens things up for us, though.
Oh, it definitely opens things up. And I'll
don't do me dirty here. That's all.
No, I'm not. I'm going to do the opposite of that. I will give you the option to take any player available because I'm going to roll the dice and put Juju in the lineup.
I love it because that gives us Mahomes. We got the Zach Pascal. Yep. Okay. So Patrick Mahomes, Juju, we're still leaving money on the table, right? We're still leaving 2,200 out there. Love it. Nice. So let's just hope that all of the good pass catchers don't have the best of games today.
I like that lineup, though.
I like it, too. Hey, you guys are the greatest. Appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of the day. Take an Uber home. You know what I mean? Take an Uber home if you need to. Shout out to Alex. Fun season, man. Follow him at Awesemo DFS. Ben at JazzRaz DFS. Me at Laffy_D. And shout out again. If you hit the thumbs up, not for anybody, not for me or Ben or Alex or anything else, do it for Jordan Klein. Guys producing like 4.5 straight hours today. Every single Sunday, he gets it done. So shout out to you guys, to Jordan, to everybody else. Good luck today. Enjoy the game. We'll catch you back here in September for the next Stochastic Deeper Dive. Peace.
You know, Teddy wasn't around in 2017, so this is pretty big in our household here. Yes, the Philadelphia Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl, but my favorite bet is each team to kick one field goal in the first half. That's it. That's plus 155. That's all you need. Look, even Teddy is on board. Even Teddy knows the Philadelphia Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl. 1+ field goal each first half, plus 155.
What's up, everybody? Off to get some delicious breakfast, but before I eat, I want to tell you, best bet of the Super Bowl, A.J. Brown. First touchdown, you can find it 10-1 out there in the market. Of course, enjoy the game, have fun. Talk to you guys soon.
So I heard you were looking for some long shot Super Bowl props. If the Chiefs are playing in any game, you know what name's coming out of my mouth. The same one you've been hearing all of 2023. The same guy who's been putting money in your pockets all 2023. Isaiah Pacheco, the human credit card payment. We've been taking those rushing props. We've been taking those receiving props. I'm going to combine them. Go rushing and receiving and bumping it all the way up. Don't you know? Bump it up. Isaiah Pacheco, 125 plus yards. That's going to get you plus 800. And if you're looking for a nice way to go into the offseason, that's a pretty good way. If you ask me, you'll be sitting in the sun with me after the Super Bowl. Isaiah Pacheco, over 125 plus rushing and receiving.
Oh, hey, don't tell anybody you saw me reading this. This is the copy to this weekend's script to the Super Bowl. So I have all the information. I already know what happens in the game. I have the script copy right here. Only sent it out to a very, very select amount of content creators. I happen to be one of them. So I've got a bet for you. Kadarius Toney plus 420 anytime touchdown score. It's in the script. Go ahead.
I got a big dog, and this big dog's got to eat. So I got to make some money here on the Super Bowl with my best bet, Patrick Mahomes to throw 2 or more interceptions. You can find that plus 450 and higher across the entire industry. 25 interceptions, 12 this season for Patrick Mahomes in the regular season. You have 17 interceptions for the Eagles throughout this season. Slay, Bradbury, just a ridiculous secondary. Fire that one up, and good luck.
If you're not betting the long shot to win Super Bowl MVP this year, what are you doing? Don't even bother turning the TV on, okay? Sure, in all likelihood, it's going to be Patrick Mahomes or Jalen Hurts. But there's an absolute dog on the defensive line that's going to wreak havoc on this Kansas City offense all game long. We're talking about someone that finished second in sacks this season, first in forced fumbles, first in fumble recoveries, has 3.5 sacks in the postseason through only 2 games. Trying to block this dude is like standing in between a crackhead and his connect after he spent all day trying to get his money up. It's just not going to happen. So guess what? If Jalen Hurts is mediocre and the Eagles still win this game and they continue to run a committee in the backfield, it's going to be Hassan Reddick at 35-1 taking home the MVP. And Patrick Mahomes is going to be having nightmares about number 7 for years to come.
This is wild. Last hour of NFL content at Stochastic for season. And we're live. Oh my goodness. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the No House Advantage live before lock show. Very excited to be talking Eagles, Chiefs. We have Super Bowl Sunday. It's finally upon us. Hit that like button. You guys did a great job, but I think we could do a little bit better. Get ourselves geared up for this big game, trying to win some big money across the industry, like at No House Advantage. We're going to talk DraftKings FanDuel, and the guy that I've all season long covered every single one of these live before locks with, unless he was, off in the woods, living off the land, eating the hot dogs, doing the things. And I'm pretty sure you didn't miss a single Sunday all season long. It's Matt Gajewski, Matt_Gajewski over on the Twitters. How you doing, my dude?
I'm doing great. I didn't miss a Sunday, and if hot dogs did come straight from the land, I'd be out there a lot more often instead of spending my Sundays here. But we've got one last hurrah. We have the XFL appetizer, if you will. So football's not done, guys. I know a lot of people have been a little somber today. We've got Josh Gordon, Martavis Bryant.
Oh my God.
Some pretty good names in the XFL. And if you can't tell, I'm excited for that. But regardless, we have the end of the NFL, which should be fun as well.
Sounds like two names that I lost a lot of money rostering, trying to like recapture the good old days. That the Josh Gordon with the Chiefs one especially was horrific. That was not an enjoyable experience. I can tell you that.
I mean, my chasing of Josh Gordon goes all the way back to me in college, like just playing seasonal leagues. Like we often laugh, me and you both, about how much money we've lost on MVS over the years. Josh Gordon, he's leagues above that.
Yeah. I'm curious. Let us know in chat, because again, this is kind of a fun way to get it going. Who is the football player that burned you the most this season? Everybody knows it's MVS for me. Probably for Matt Gajewski up there as well. Both of us eternally not grateful to Marquez Valdez-Scantling. But I'm just very, very curious. Who was it this season that you didn't enjoy? I can guarantee you one thing. Probably wasn't Patty Mahomes and Jalen Hurts playing in this football game. Pretty studly all season long. Looking forward to some potential shootout potential. I don't know what to make of this total or this game. Lots of things that we will dive into. But from the get-go, we don't have all the injuries here. We're coming to you guys a couple hours early. I think we can kind of assume that, the major points. CEH, will he be activated? Will he not? Lots of different question marks just in terms of like the actual health of some of these receivers. But anything you want to talk about in terms of potential inactives before we get going?
I'm curious to see the CEH situation, of course. I think that's the biggest mystery. But you guys have been watching Live Before Lock. We have $6 million available in just one tournament on DraftKings and a slew of other prizes available with hundreds of thousands of entries. If you're playing those large fields, you need to be paying attention to the back end of the roster. Is CEH active? How many tight ends do these teams have active today? Are they running a sixth receiver, a fifth receiver instead? Like, is Michael Burton playing? Like, are fullbacks active? These things matter. We actually saw an example of this in the conference championship when Justin Watson was late scratched. So if you're playing if you're using our tools as well, and you're playing like the contrarian style in our lineup generator, these decisions are going to matter. So it's going to be guys like Grant Calcaterra, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Justin Watson. Those are the players I'm looking for with inactives.
Obi-Wan, Reed's been resting CEH. For what? What? No. That's just because he said on draft day that he reminded him of who was the LSU running back that he felt like he missed out on before CEH. Was it Priest Holmes that he was talking about once upon a time too? Somebody that he missed out on drafting that he talked about on draft night. He was getting faded out regardless. Pacheco's really good.
CEH alive. Yeah, he's alive. CEH is alive.
We'll find out how alive a little bit later here. That's for sure. Pretty interesting circumstance there, but let's just talk about the key players here, starting with the quarterback position like the guys just did before on this show. And there's a 3 fantasy point gap between Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes going towards Jalen Hurts. He has the ability to create with his legs. And if I had to guess which one of these teams romped the other one, I think we would both agree that it would be Philadelphia unleashing on Kansas City. It just feels as though we've just seen those kind of blowout W's from them all season long. Sure, they've had one of the weakest strength of schedules this entire season, but you can only play who's in front of you. And they have clobbered whoever has been in front of them, especially come playoff time. Pretty good run good, but Jalen Hurts creating with his legs. They haven't even had to unleash him the last 2 weeks. Only 9 and 11 rushing attempts, has not gotten close to going over the 45 and a half yards his rushing prop was last game. I feel pretty confident in saying Jalen Hurts, no strings. They're not holding him back in any way, shape, or form. This is the Super Bowl. If his shoulder is falling off, he is playing football throughout this, and that makes him very interesting for me. How interesting is he for you for fantasy purposes today?
I mean, he's probably the most likely just to break the slate, given his skill set. You look at the total in this game, it's high. The spread, it's close. He's an extremely mobile quarterback who's been, I think, succeeding as a passer too, largely through his weapons, but also just through his own personal development. He's taken large strides this year. Multiple ways to beat you, but he has the Josh Allen upside. He has the Lamar Jackson upside of a player who can beat you in so many different ways. And if all of that comes through him, he can just absolutely nuke a slate. So he's kind of in a tier of his own.
Can't say those words around these parts. Nuke. You know what they do to people who say that on Twitter?
Microwave?
They sent you up in the balloon.
Did you get your Twitter back after?
I did.
Okay,
Go
good.
follow me at
I
Eric
thought I
Lundquist.
saw you.
I thought I saw you. I didn't like any of your tweets, but I saw you.
No, it's just scrolling through the Twitter sphere. But I'm glad you're back, buddy. It's good to have you.
Bud. It's good to be back. I gotta say, prison was not enjoyable, but here we are. We made it back. I'm out of Twitter jail. Glad to be amongst the people. Bad matchup for CEH. There's way too much CEH talk going on when we're talking quarterbacks here. I'm looking at Jalen Hurts as being somebody that can get it done with his legs again for a third straight game. I just feel pretty confident that when they eventually play a close game, which this projects out to be, I am very much looking forward to smashing with the Jalen Hurts over 50, 60-yard alternate props as well. Think he's going to be getting there for us today. And Patrick Mahomes on the other side, I'm a little bit confused here. And I think it has to do with the salary, just the $200 salary gap on DraftKings. But when you look at his captain optimal, he is behind Hurts in our projections. He is behind Kelsey. He is behind Goddard. And Goddard down there at 6,400 creates a lot of opportunity for you to play everybody around him. He is fourth in terms of captain optimal. I'm a little bit nervous because the public is going to play him in that captain spot. I'm nervous that I have to fade my boy. What are you planning to do with him specifically as a captain today?
Yeah, I'm coming in light on him right now for a lot of the reasons you mentioned. One, it's a price thing. He's just extremely expensive. He's close to Hurts, who has so many paths to beating you, different paths, and it's a close spread. So, I mean, it's very likely just from a raw projection standpoint to, at some degree, that Hurts just outproduces him. And then with Mahomes being somewhat injured, I think there's at least some uncertainty there. If it all comes through his arm, which it largely does anyway, there's a decent chance that one of the cheaper receivers can outscore him from a price-adjusted standpoint. So maybe you still need Mahomes, but in the flex, because Juju has 100 yards and a touchdown, and him being so cheap, that just allows for a different roster construction that ends up with more points with maybe a Juju captain or MVS, whatever the pass catcher may be. So I see more paths to Mahomes failing at the captain spot, but he's still Mahomes, which, I mean, it's risky anytime you're going to take that approach.
Yeah, you kind of have to pair him with a couple of the cheapies. They're garnering enough attention there. There's really no leverage going to Mahomes there in the captain at the moment, and that's just a difficult thing. It makes sense, though. It makes sense. I mean, you have to play with multiple pass catchers, it feels like, for that to end up being the winning build. Jalen Hurts, you can play him anywhere with anybody, basically, because of the rushing and throwing abilities that he has. So going to be pretty wild. I'm more willing to accept the negative leverage for Jalen Hurts than I am for Patrick Mahomes. And I never thought I would say something like that on a Super Bowl slate, but here we are. We are on the same page in that regard. In terms of just playing them in the utility, is there anything that you're doing as far as rules go in Cruncher today for DraftKings or FanDuel purposes for Hurts and Mahomes?
I talked about this with Loughy on Friday. I was toying with the idea, and this would just be a leverage play of making a rule that's one of the two, unless like they're both in flex. So essentially, if one of them is the captain, I only want to play one of them. But looking at our ownership, and then I played around with the lineup generator a lot this morning just to, get an idea of what was coming up when you use the contrarian builds or the balance builds. And I was getting a lot of really highly projected lineups that were still projected to be contrarian enough with them both in there. And sometimes that is just the fact that the Chiefs have 5 or 6 active receivers. So maybe it's Justin Watson included in a lineup, or Quez Watkins, or a Noah Gray, like a backup tight end or something. All that to say, I think there are ways where you can play them both in the same lineup, as long as you're being cognizant of the field size. Again, if you're playing something with 1,000 entries or less, you don't need to worry about this at all. I just take the raw projection, which will jam them both. But in larger fields, I would be careful about just where you're jamming chalk. If you end up with both, make some conscious decisions elsewhere. But based on what I was able to build, I have no issues playing them both.
If you're making one lineup and you're trying to fade one of the two, who are you more likely to fade in the utility?
Mahomes. I have more Hurts just across the board. Utility, captain, both.
I'm with you. Again, it just feels like, oh man, it feels like we are just going to fade public perception. They're just going to play a ton of Mahomes. It's a showdown slate. If you told me Mahomes absolutely nuked it, no doubt about it. Like it's within the range of outcomes, but I'm far more confident in Jalen Hurts finding success no matter what. We're talking about the best pass defense on the other side. Bradbury, Slay, they've just looked ridiculous here. The Hassan Reddick coming from the edge, Sweat on the other side. Just a ridiculous setup there in Philadelphia. Feel pretty confident that Jalen Hurts is going to find success, barring some major turnover problems that I don't really see. He's only had 2 lost fumbles all season long. Really secure, even running with the football, throwing the football. Pretty incredible season across the board there for Jalen Hurts. I don't find the talent gap to be as wide as it probably was coming into this season. Not that that's shocking to anybody, but anything else you want to discuss about the quarterbacks before we move on to running back?
No, I agree with you. And I mean, there's a talent gap as far as passing goes, but Hurts runs and Mahomes doesn't. So overall, like, you can do more things with your offense with Hurts than you can with Mahomes. Mahomes just doesn't run.
Yeah, Mahomes just like makes shit up, and he's really good at it.
Well, Mahomes is mobile in a different way. And
Correct.
that might be compromised. And I still think that's a huge talking point, because you look at any sort of pressure stats, and a lot of them can be attributed to the quarterback. So like pressure to sack rate, which essentially takes every time a quarterback is pressured, how many times does that turn into a sack? Mahomes, it's like half of Hurts. He is so good at evading pressure. And now with 2 weeks removed from the injury, it's a major question for me, at least. How does Mahomes move in the pocket today?
Hurts is nothing without the offensive line. I think most football teams are nothing without a good offensive line. Fair to say, Matt Gajewski?
Yes, I think so.
Pretty important to have that covered for you. I mean, look at 2 seasons ago, Chiefs, they were good to a point, and then it was just blitzkrieg pop going up against that Tampa Bay pass rush. My dear God.
How about Burrow early in his career?
Oh yeah, Burrow on the brink of extinction, and then just he balled out. They figured out, hey, maybe we should get some pieces around it. Just like, hey, maybe you guys should take advantage of BetMGM. We have first bet insurance going up to $1,000, and with that comes 1 month of Stochastic Platinum free. Pretty great offer going down in the video description box below. You use promo code Platinum Sub. All right, Platinum Sub being the promo code, and you're going to get up to $1,000 risk free. First bet insurance. We're talking as good of a deal as it gets. So use that. Take advantage of this. And again, we're going to talk through props. We're going to talk. Matt and I both had our favorite props that we had coming into today. We're going to have plenty of time to cover the ins and outs of that over the course of the next 40 minutes. But why don't you utilize anything, whether it's, hey, I think X team is going to win. Awesome. You get that basically insured up to $1,000, because you just get that credit back into your account if it doesn't hit. God, I can't wait to not see this picture ever again. But might as well just use this right now, Platinum Sub. Make this picture worth it for me, okay? All the pain and nausea and disgust that I have over the thing. Take advantage of this. That'll make me feel a little bit better. But first bet insurance up to $1,000 gets you anything that you want over at BetMGM. Plus 1 month as well of Stochastic Platinum free. That is a massive offer. You guys are watching a DFS show. I know sports betting is a little bit different. Totally is. But we have an opportunity to get you guys lots of money. That is the goal at the end of the day, is to help you win. And this is yet another way to do it. So Stochastic Plus, BetMGM, take advantage of it. This is for 21 and over. And if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Cool. We go to the running back position. I see a lot of Boston Scott discussion. Yeah, best pick ever. F off. Oliver Klozoff. Great. I said that too. Let's start with the Kansas City side, because I find them to be a little less clear-cut. Like Miles Sanders feels like he's going to be the main guy from the Philadelphia side. Don't have a ton of interest in Gainwell and Scott. We'll get there. But Jerick McKinnon and Isaiah Pacheco pulling nearly identical ownership on DraftKings.com in that utility spot. Which one do you prefer for today's slate?
I think they're extremely close. And with these players, I've been trying to use ownership as a tiebreaker and then go with the player I think provides the most leverage. And to speak about this from an opportunity perspective, it's been widely reported that maybe Pacheco has moved ahead of Jerick McKinnon, based largely on what happened in the conference championship. You saw him run more routes. He's on the field more often, and he's largely played better and been more efficient during that short stretch of time. But I don't really have any confidence that's sticky. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the weeks of the fantasy football playoffs where you needed Jerick McKinnon if you were going to win anything.
Oh, yeah.
I think this is sort of a fluid situation, the hot hand, if you will, that could ebb and flow based on a player's performance, or maybe a certain matchup that the team identifies. So if I'm going to get a little bit of an ownership break with McKinnon, he's the player I'm looking at right now.
I think there's a little bit of game script that has to be factored in as well, don't you think? Like maybe I'm overthinking it a little bit, but it feels like McKinnon, also when you think about his passing game acumen, just a phenomenal receiver of the football, no doubt about it. Coming out of the backfield, he did that in Minnesota. He did it for like a week with San Francisco over the course of his 2 years there. And then with Kansas City, we saw him emerge last season towards the tail end of the year, ended up losing to Cincy, but he was just phenomenal. And then this whole season, it was kind of like waiting for it to happen. He had the breakout towards the end of the season, but a lot of it had to do with like that Houston game was a lot closer than people anticipated it to be. The Denver spot, he had a couple of massive big plays. Didn't see the field as much as you would expect, but still like 8-9 targets. I think when they get up early in some spots, you're going to see it be a little bit more Pacheco, but Jerick McKinnon, I think is my preferred between the two for this game, just because I expect them to be playing from behind. And don't you need to have all of your weapons there? And if there's any physical limitations, we hear rumblings about Juju Smith-Schuster, Kadarius Toney with his hamstring that just feels like a 2-year problem. We have so many other question marks. Justin Watson, it was an illness, so I have less there, but I feel really, really good about Jerick McKinnon's ability to create out of the passing game. And if I'm going to be going more Jalen Hurts, more towards the Philadelphia side winning this football game, I think Jerick McKinnon makes the most sense coming along for the ride, don't you think?
Yeah, I personally agree. And I still do believe he's the player they'll use if they get into like 2-minute situations, if they're down. There's a bit of projection there still because of what Pacheco did last week. And I mean, I think people kind of just put Pacheco in this 2-down grinder role. He played for an awful Rutgers team, like awful enough to make him, what was he, a 7th round pick?
Mm-hmm.
And he's outperformed most of the running backs in the class ahead of him. So we don't really know what he can do as a pass catcher, largely because he was limited in his time early in college, and he's a rookie. I mean, he's working into a larger role. I don't think it's out of the range of possibility, but we know McKinnon can do that. McKinnon's also the player that they use for pass blocking. And a lot of times it's a pass blocking set. The play breaks down. That'll just turn into a reception naturally, depending on how the play works out. So yeah. I think I'm in full agreement with you.
Yeah, McKinnon, the better pass blocker. I mean, he's got spark score God mode. Like that's what it is. And Pacheco looked great in the passing game, but it wasn't like designed situations there last week. 6 for 5, 59. Looks really, really good there on paper. Didn't go completely ballistic. I know it's a 1-game slate here, but I do think if I'm trying to like spike who's going to end up being optimal there, just as I play this game out, as I see the game script for it, I feel like I just land on a little bit more Jerick McKinnon. I'll definitely play Pacheco too. I've enjoyed watching him play, physical runner, really, really enjoyable. And as you said, it's hard to penalize for somebody for having the ability to still be a successful football player, regardless of circumstance at Rutgers. Like he didn't have to catch the football. Doesn't mean that he can't. It's like the Sony Michel thing, but that's a different conversation from 2 years ago. I'm going to probably just get over that one, but let's go to the Philadelphia side. Unless you have CEH interest, of which I do not.
I think you need CEH intel if you're going to have a strong take on him. Otherwise, I think it just comes down to your field size. I wouldn't play him in anything under 100,000 entries. And honestly, it's getting to the point. I've been watching some shows all day. He's a hot talking point. I'm a little scared he's going to get steamed up because of the price. And if he's a little more owned than we expect, I just want a full fade.
Yep, I have 0%. I'm not planning to utilize him. I think if he does get activated, which we don't even know, I think it's a pure insurance policy sitting behind there. I can't imagine that he comes in and has any kind of a substantial role. This feels very, very eerily similar to the Cam Akers situation last season. Obviously there's tons of ability for anybody who touches the football inside of the 5 for Kansas City to put up points. So there you go. But like, I can't imagine CEH walks into like a goal line role here either.
I don't think he will either. I mean, it's pure projection, and he was being outperformed by the other backs on the roster even prior to injury.
Awesome. Let's jump over to Philadelphia. Miles Sanders. Feel like he's a little bit forgotten on today's slate. And I don't mind having Jalen Hurts and getting to Miles Sanders as well. If they find success on the ground here against Kansas City, it could be a long long day. You can see how that game script works out. I probably get to some Eagles D, but I don't think that's going to be a popular way of putting them together. But if they just kind of find that success, I know rushing defense wise, giving up right around 107 per game. The Kansas City Chiefs are a top 10 in the league in that regard, but they haven't faced Miles Sanders and Jalen Hurts. So just throwing it out there, I think they're going to find success running the football in some capacity here. What's your interest level in Miles Sanders, who's coming in pretty darn low owned?
Which surprises me. He's coming off, at least box score wise, a good game in the conference championship. He scored 2 touchdowns, and that largely drove his performance. And you needed him to win that slate. So I'm a bit surprised the ownership's as low as it is. But ultimately, he was still in a game that was largely uncompetitive due to the Brock Purdy injury. So I have questions. How many carries or touches could he have seen if they were pushed in that game? I think it's probably around 15 to 18, but we haven't seen a competitive game for the Eagles since the regular season. If you're talking about a back on their roster who has maybe some hidden touch upside that's not being accounted for in projections, it's Miles Sanders. And I think the opposite is true for Gainwell and mainly Boston Scott in this equation. If there's a running back on Philly that doesn't touch the ball today, I think it's Boston Scott. And those carries, I believe, would go to Sanders, just as the most talented back and the feature back they've used situationally this year when they've been pushed.
Yeah, again, 30% of the snaps there. Last game, Miles Sanders, just a spot where they've been able to put their entire team on bubble wrap these last 2 games. So it's really hard to know what to expect out of snap share for some of these guys. Kenneth Gainwell looked good. Boston Scott looked good. Giant killer himself, specifically in that spot. But what a dumb nickname. What a dumb world. But Miles Sanders, just no ownership going his way. I think I'm willing to take some shots there. I do find it a little bit eerie seeing his captain optimal percentage. I mean, look how far down the list he is in that regard in our top showdown and single game plays tool. I mean, you can't let me count the ways that people are outperforming him in the captain optimal. I think just by default, if he's going to be 0.4% likely to be the optimal captain, I just have to full fade that spot considering he's pulling 3.4% ownership.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's a price thing, and he's going to be in a timeshare regardless.
Yeah. So
from a projection standpoint, it makes a ton of sense. And we're not telling you Miles Sanders isn't going to be the optimal captain. He very well could be, but our tools suggest that he's going to be owned a little more than the frequency, which he actually finishes as the top captain. So no issues with that at all.
All right. Well, before we jump over to these last 2 backs here, I think this is kind of a good opportunity for me to help out with all these super chats. Let me grab that here. We got our guy, Jordan Klein, behind the virtual pay glass. By far, the best NFL producer at Stokastic named Jordan Klein. I don't think it's close. No reaction. None. We love you. It's been a fun year. You want to go golfing this weekend? You have times to go play golf, actually. Good time. Yes. Okay, cool. Let's get out of here. Let's jump over to the super chats. Let me pull these up here. This is great, riveting stuff. Michael McKinney, $5. Appreciate you, Mike. He wants to know our 3 favorite plays, $10,000 and under. This didn't get answered last show. Good to know. Thank you, Jordan Klein. 3 favorite plays, 10,000 and under. So basically, we're getting away from the quarterbacks and the entire rest of the board outside of Travis Kelce. So who are your favorite plays, not named Hurts, Mahomes, or Kelce on today's slate?
Yeah, holy smokes. I thought you were saying under 1,000. I was like, oh my gosh.
No.
Okay, so I mean, we're pretty wide open here. As far as my favorite plays, I'm going to give a little bit of context behind them because we're talking about very vastly different price ranges. I like Dallas Goedert quite a bit as the Eagles pass catcher, especially if you're stacking somebody with Hurts. He's cheaper, so he offers a different roster construction than A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, who are very close. The Chiefs play a lot of this 2-high safety cover 2 look where they leave the field open in the middle quite a bit. So if you want to talk like game script, get your hand in the dirt stylistics, Goddard certainly exploits that. And my second one, I'm going to go with Juju Smith-Schuster as a pivot off MVS, who might be drawing a little more ownership than typical based on that. It was an injury-riddled game for the Chiefs where they were left with Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Sky Moore, and Marcus Kemp. So I think maybe you'll see a bit of an ownership break on Juju Smith-Schuster that we might not normally get.
Jake Elliott.
Love the kickers. I'm glad you brought them up. Hopefully we get to talk about them a little bit. I love the kickers today.
Yeah, both kickers. We're going to a dome. One of the big bugaboos this season for Harrison Butker as well. He's 2 for 6 outside of 50. He kicks at Arrowhead outdoors in the winter. There's wind blowing across that stadium a lot. We're playing in a dome in Glendale, Arizona. Yeah, I'm here for kicker takes, baby. You want to talk about some kickers? Let's do it. But Jake Elliott, Harrison Butker, but specifically Jake Elliott, a guy that I have a ton of on today's slate. I think both offenses might run into some red zone issues, and we'll get to that as we get to the wide receiver spot here. But cool, glad that we covered that. And then Trevor Carley, $9.99. Maddie, it's Trev. I can't afford rent after losing my Badgers bet yesterday. If you had to pick one prop bet to win, or you're sleeping on the streets, this is pretty extreme. If you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. What do you guys like? Thanks, my bro. All right, let's get this man a nice warm blanket, a nice bed, some pillows, tuck him in nice, Matt Gajewski. And also don't recommend the Badgers because they're just absolutely piss poor, terrible. But how are we feeling about prop bets today? What's your favorite on the board? I've got mine.
Yeah, can speak firsthand to the Badgers after betting them yesterday, as I know my good friend Trevor Carley did as well. Trevor Carley, I know him personally, so this is a friend of mine. He's part of this like a master DFS circle. On Fridays, typically him and 2 of my other friends go to a coffee shop, and then we all play and talk about the weekend slates. Today's actually his birthday.
Oh my God, are you 85 years old?
Happy birthday.
Are you the McDonald's crew sitting in the back corner booth, just sitting there talking about your weeks and about all the farming that you have to do later on in the day? Like what?
I don't know what you're referencing, but no,
okay.
I actually like McDonald's coffee. That's not typically where we go. We've never been to McDonald's, but we talk about gambling all weekend. What we talk about and what we do. But today is also his birthday. So happy birthday, Trevor. I know he's had a couple drinks, so we got to win a good prop bet here. My favorite is Jalen Hurts over 236 passing yards. For a lot of the reasons we talked about his rushing upside, he just hasn't been pushed. There's ways to exploit Kansas City through the air. They actually have pretty bad corners outside of L'Jarius Sneed. I like that matchup a lot, especially if it's a competitive game back and forth. I'm going to go over 236 passing for Hurts.
See, chat knows I was speaking the truth. They know exactly. If you're from South Dakota or Minnesota or Wisconsin, again, Matt Gajewski, next time you go to McDonald's, look in the corner at like 8 a.m., 8:30, go in to order. Don't do the drive-thru. And you will always see that group of like 4 to 8 farmers that are just sitting there, having their coffee, having the best chat of their lives, and they do it every single Friday. Every single Friday. It is unbelievable, with unbelievable consistency.
Eric, you know I love my cheap food, and I'm very loyal to my Star-Kissed tuna. I'm very loyal to my Quick Trip hot dogs.
At 8 a.m.?
I am not stepping foot in McDonald's when I have very cheap alternatives. I mean, you can't sit down and have coffee in Quick Trip, but I mean, if you could, I would be there every Friday morning with these guys probably.
Eat a fucking McMuffin, live a little
I
bit.
went to Quick Trip at 4 a.m. today.
It's pretty disturbing.
The only problem is sometimes they don't have hot dogs on the roller at 4 a.m.
So did you make them go out and get them and then put them on and you waited?
No, I got a breakfast sandwich instead.
A Quick Trip breakfast sandwich. I cannot possibly imagine something that would be worse for my stomach. But either way,
they're awesome, dude.
Okay. My favorite prop bet, Patrick Mahomes to throw a pick. It's like minus 105 pretty much everywhere that you look. I look at this Eagles secondary, 17 picks over the course of the season. We have 25 interceptions the last 2 seasons for one Patrick Mahomes. Pretty difficult. As good and incredible as he is, there's still been an inclination towards throwing the football a lot. 67% of the offensive plays for the Chiefs. Lots of dropbacks, lots of opportunities for Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat to go high. Patrick Mahomes, one errant throw is all it takes. So pretty much a foregone conclusion. Lock it up. Patrick Mahomes to throw a pick. And if you want to get aggressive, to throw 2 picks, over plus 450 everywhere. So those are my favorite prop bets here. And I am a Mahomes stan, notably. And that's why I love MVS. And oh boy, I'm going to lose money in DFS today. So that's for sure. Let's go to the Philadelphia other ancillary running backs to round out that conversation. We'll talk a little no-house advantage, our friends there, before we get to the pass catchers, which is going to take the bulk of our show. But Kenneth Gainwell, I'm not feeling good about this. I have a feeling he gets steamed up. Maybe Miles Sanders, just because of name recognition. We have a lot of public money, 475,000 lineups on that tournament in DraftKings, the $20 or $25. Looking at a lot of opportunities for public money to show up, and maybe they just click Miles Sanders, and I'm wrong about this, but I think Kenneth Gainwell. People look at the box score, see 12 carries, 14 carries, see a little bit of passing game acumen, see that smash against the Giants. I think he ends up overowned compared to his expectations, chances of smashing. How do you feel about him on this slate?
To be honest with you, I think both of the running backs are a little too expensive for the Eagles just based on recent performance. Doesn't mean they can't succeed, but I prefer to get to the pass catchers in this range, like Dallas Goedert, Juju. Maybe you can save a little bit and go down to a kicker or a defense. And if I had to pick between them, I prefer Sanders again, just believing when they need to actually go all out in a game that he would be the player they prefer. Kenny Gainwell has a slightly different skill set. He played a lot of receiver in college, so perhaps they prefer to use him in third down and hurry up situations. But that hasn't been consistent all year. And again, it's been something they've used situationally and haven't necessarily needed to use a lot. But I think I'm still going to prefer Gainwell, especially when they're both at pretty elevated prices.
This Boston Scott stuff has gotten extreme. He's played 23 and 30% of snaps. I think at 3K, because he's cheaper than the kickers, I might have a little bit of exposure going his way. But yeah, the Kenneth Gainwell thing, I'm nervous about, but I'm going to be under the field for sure. I think I'm more inclined to get to Miles Sanders. I know he's still got negative leverage in the utility spot, but like still, I feel as though if somebody is going to get there just in terms of rushing touchdowns and have that opportunity to smash, I think it's going to still be Miles Sanders in the ground game along with Jalen Hurts. But how do you feel about Boston Scott, giant killer in this spot against Kansas City?
I think he's a little expensive too, especially considering it's a three-way timeshare. But when you look at the players he's comparable to, you can go up for $1,000 and get a kicker who I much prefer to Boston Scott. You have players like Sky Moore, Justin Watson, Quez Watkins in this range, who I believe have similar upside, but are coming in with far less ownership. So he's not a player I love for DFS. If I were to project his role today, I think he probably is like over under 3 carries, 2.5 carries, maybe 3, somewhere in that range.
Kick returning. You have the opportunity to get him to return a kick.
Yeah, maybe he does that, but they have a couple guys that can return kicks on their team. So I'm not real confident that that's his role.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's him and what? Quez Watkins has done some kick returning. It's primarily Boston Scott, though, no?
Yeah, he's done some kick returning. I don't think Cubby's active today, but Quez has tried. He's been actually pretty good.
He's tried. That's adorable. Yeah. Good try. Good try. Well, this is the best place. I can tell you one thing. As soon as we get done here, as soon as we get off this show, we still have 2 hours until the Super Bowl locks. We're talking 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, 3:30 p.m. Pacific time out here on the West Coast, the best coast. And this no house advantage contest is going to be what I'm entering. No doubt about it. We got a $20 going. You want to guess how full it is right now, Matt Gajewski?
26%.
35%. So it's a little bit more filled, but just over 1,000 entries, only 3,000 entries that we're trying to fill out there. 20K to first. That is a nice chunk of change to take advantage of. Plus, you'll get yourself $100 first match deposit bonus over at No House Advantage. $100 just by signing up and taking advantage of all of the great tools and content that we have over at our site to be able to utilize over at No House Advantage right now. You simply put in player, we have 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're doing confidence in terms of player positions for specific props that we have listed there. I like a lot of Jalen Hurts props. That's for damn sure. We look at the selecting props there. You've got 248.5, probably the most inflated number. You said it was 234 at other spots, but this is a much better projection that they have going over there on that. But more than 1.5 passing touchdowns, 0.5 passing interceptions, like more on both of those for him. Patrick Mahomes talked about it already. 0.5 passing interceptions. That's going to be a 7 or a 6 for me a lot of the times as I'm building out lineups here on No House Advantage. There's a ton of money up for grabs. This contest, just like all of their NFL contests this season, they've made them bigger so that you know you're going to be getting overlay. You know you're going to be getting your money in good, as opposed to on DraftKings where they're taking 16, 18, 20% rake in a lot of their massive contests. So head to No House Advantage, sign up using promo code Stochastic, and Give them a thank you for this NFL season, this unbelievable offer. Hopefully you've been playing there all season long. We see all of the great screenshots over on Twitter, which I am now a part of once more. We see all of the great content from Loughy when he does the Hall of Fame segment. Lots of winners over at No House Advantage here. So go out with a hurrah. Sign up over there now. Get $100 first match deposit bonus. Get yourself in the game over there. Just $20. Then you'll get another 20. You could just deposit 20 and get 20, and you'll have 2 entries in that contest out of 3,000. Make your money, go to work over there. Best place that you could possibly be playing for today. So it's now 46% full as I just updated that. Pretty cool to see. Nearly 50% full there in the $20. Hey, they have the $5 going. That's definitely going to fill there. Good to see for them, but just 2 hours and 15 minutes left to go. Give our friends over at No House Advantage a chance over there. And then the versus the house, lots of great stuff. I think I'm going to be posting a card here in about an hour or so as I get all of my bets finished up and in. I'm going to be going to No House Advantage, and I'm going to be doing the versus the house. Once again, take that under 1,000.5 passing yards. They're giving you a freebie to start off your cards with. So take advantage of that. You get up to 21x your money for a 5 correct, as opposed to other sites where it's just 10 times your money to get 5 out of 5. So a much better payout structure playing over there. Please check them out. Think you will very much enjoy nohouseadvantage.com. We have pass catchers, my friend, and Jalen Hurts. We have an over 50 total. We have Jalen Hurts, much improved pocket passer. He's got A.J. Brown, who's built like God. We have Devonta Smith, who's faster than God. We have Patrick Mahomes with 48,000 different passing wide receivers, if you will. Travis Kelce sitting there. How do we kind of wade through this? Because we have to start prioritizing some of these guys. So let's start with this. Who is your favorite Eagles wide receiver to target in tournaments today?
It's A.J. Brown, just going up to the top.
Yeah.
And there's a couple reasons why. I still think there is a talent gap between him and Devonta Smith. It's closed a bit. Their volume is closed. But we've seen in situations where games are highly competitive, A.J. Brown is the target edge. He also has a better yards per route run. So if you're trying to split these hairs, and they're very much hairs that you are splitting between the pair of them, I'd rather just find the $600 and go up to A.J. Brown. Now, I'm playing multiple lineups, going to be playing a lot of both of these players. But if you ask me to just pick one, it would be A.J. Brown. I think this conversation excludes Dallas Goedert. Love him. We'll talk about tight ends in a bit. And then the wide receiver 3 role, I will be throwing some darts on Quez Watkins, but that's still going to be a rotation with some Zach Pascal, who I'll have in a handful of lineups as well. But among the Eagles, it is A.J. Brown.
I think you said Juju Smith-Schuster already for Kansas City, correct?
Juju, Casey's a little bit more difficult to evaluate.
Oh, they're impossible.
Yeah, we're probably going to see like 5 to 6 wide receivers, depending on who ends up being active, actually take the field for this team. But to break that down a little bit, I think MVS is going to be a little inflated based on the massive game. Juju was already really the only wide receiver who was playing a full-time role in the offense. From there, we'd seen MVS play a rotation role somewhere between like 50 to 65% of the snaps. Justin Watson was actually in that range as well prior to his absence last week with an illness. He'll be back today. He's another player I really like, especially among the cheap players. And then I feel like everybody's always rolling dice on how many snaps Kadarius Toney is going to get.
Yep.
Largely because of game plan, but also because he can't stay on the field due to injury. And normally this is not something I will bring up on shows. I think injuries are largely volatile and people overrate them. See everyone who faded Christian McCaffrey this year. But this guy literally just cannot stay on the field. And it seems like he's a severe injury every single week, and then he comes back and plays and gets hurt again. I have no idea how much he's going to play. No idea how involved he's been at practice. No idea with him, but he's going to be owned, which to me, I would rather find the money to pay up for Juju or pay down for somebody like a Justin Watson.
How about Marquez Valdez Scantling? He did it. Last week he did it. At 6%, he did it on a 2-game slate.
It only took the whole team getting hurt to happen.
That's all it took. One injury is all
they had takes. They had to play a certain Marcus Kemp, who had 4 career receptions for MVS to get there.
Well, and you had to play Sky Moore 58% of snaps. Nothing like the most snaps you see all season long being in the AFC Championship game at home. Wild, wild stuff. I do think Sky Moore he's probably the guy who gets most likely faded out. Justin Watson, I do think, has that ability, and he had decent rapport throughout the season at times with Patrick Mahomes. I don't know how to evaluate that. It's already baked into projections, but I feel very good about MVS once more for the last time that I will have to say that this season. Week 22 it is for the Kansas City Chiefs. I love MVS in tournaments today. 6,200. The prices come up. I like it. I like the fact that he is the most expensive Kansas City wide receiver. I think that keeps the ownership somewhat in check. You have to worry about the box score watchers, the people who just look at what happened last week. But I think Sky Moore, because he played 58% of the snaps, I feel as though it's pretty easy to assign who continues to see their share allotment of snaps. And I think that's MVS. I think he stays on the field. He would have been, demoted to around 50% of snaps for basically the last 2 months. Saw that uptick north of 70%. I am in on MVS here for the last time. Can't wait for that to go well.
Yeah, you and I are going to be different there. I think it's our main differing point on today's slate.
Yep. I
think
perfect,
he sees a lot
Eric.
of the field. One of us is going to be heartbroken by MVS.
Yeah,
unless he goes like 5 for 50. I mean, it usually is me.
Yeah, cue up the MVS to the locker room tweet right now. It's incoming right in my eye hole. Kadarius Toney, I'm with you. I'm in love with that guy as a football player. I have been for 2 years. I thought it was pretty exciting to see him suit up for Kansas City. He just needs to be healthy, and it's so hard to know what to do. The 1 week in between, just logically in the back of my head, tells me that him and Patrick Mahomes and everybody should be a lot better off than if this were just a back-to-back situation. Hashtag, analysis, but feel really good about Kadarius Toney, just as a guy who sees pretty reduced ownership there. But how do you feel about Sky Moore, Justin Watson? Because these guys, I'm having a very difficult time figuring out what I want to do. I see the field is going to Justin Watson. Sky Moore does return kicks for Kansas City. I think that gives them a little added value where, hey, we haven't seen a lot of the correlations work out. Not a lot of kick returning touchdowns in the year of our Lord 2022 or 23 this season. But I think I want to correlate him the same way that I want to correlate to Boston Scott with the defenses, just ever so slightly. Just a small thing for tournaments today because there's only one game and the only thing we have to think about. But how do you feel about those ancillary pieces from Kansas City to round it out?
Yeah, I like throwing darts on them both. I like throwing darts on Justin Watson. Still coming in with positive leverage, even though he is a bit more owned. I think that's just because his role is more consistent than Sky Moore's. You mentioned the kick return factor, so won't really factor that in. But I have a little bit more Justin Watson, ultimately sprinkling mainly all the Chiefs receivers. But if I had to rank them based on how much I have of each individual one, number 1 would be Juju. Number 2 would be Justin Watson. Number 3 is then Toney. Then we go to MVS and then Sky Moore.
All right. I'm here for it. Pretty close to what we have in terms of utility optimal. And once again, if you guys want all of that stochastic, we have the top showdown tools, the single gameplay tools for you guys. 2 hours left till kickoff, just over 2 hours. Take advantage of that now. Best way to do that is still BetMGM. You can sign up for that in the video description box below. Talked about that already. We also have a lot of offers going on all the time, but this is the last opportunity to use it for the NFL. Just do it now. Like really, really do yourself a favor and take advantage of the BetMGM offer right now. Let's go to tight end. There's this guy, Travis Kelce. He's pretty good at football.
He's really good at football. When he's hurt, he's good at football. When teams can sell out to stop him, he's good at football. I think some of that's Mahomes, like when plays break down and then he's buying time and plays break down overall, that means receivers can open up when they get off track and off their routes. And Kelce and Mahomes have this connection where when plays do break down, they're able to find each other. And I don't know how it happens, but it's been defying Father Time, defying all logical reason, teams potentially selling out to stop him. That never seems to work, but he's expensive on this slate. And that's what I keep coming back to. You can't just lock in Mahomes, Hurts, Kelce for a couple reasons. One, you're essentially playing all Justin Watsons outside of that. And 2, that's going to be owned, especially when you funnel all of your players into certain price buckets with the expensive guys. So between them, I do prefer the quarterback. So I do have some Kelce today, but I end up being a little lighter just naturally because of the way the slate shakes out on DraftKings and him being the only other player above 10K outside of quarterbacks.
Dallas Goedert, South Dakota State's finest, national champion South Dakota State Jackrabbits, if you will. How about that? How about them apples? That was fun. What, Jordan Klein? Why are you looking at me weird?
Great basketball school, too.
Great basketball school. We're a football school now, though. And plus, everybody from South Dakota's kind of embraced them as the school. Nobody likes the Coyotes. But we're going to go to Dallas Goedert as a major conversation piece. Why? Well, because in our tools, this dude carries a massive opportunity to be captain optimal. We're talking 11.1% captain optimal number. 1/9 of the time, you're going to have Dallas Goedert optimal. Now, why is that so important? Well, he's only owned in the captain spot around 8% of the time. That is called positive leverage. He is by far the player that I am the most exposed to, not named Jalen Hurts on the Philadelphia Eagles side. I have so much of him at captain, so much of him in the utility. If he fails, I will not be winning a tournament. I can pretty much guarantee you that. How do you feel about Dallas Goedert, South Dakota's finest in the Super Bowl today?
Ooh, finest. I love that we're putting that on him. Probably true.
Yes.
I love Dallas Goedert.
Him and, the best football player in the history of South Dakota State?
When I think South Dakota State, I actually think of Baylor Shireman, the basketball player. So I'm not sure.
I mean, I love that that's where you went. Shireman, he was a bucket, absolute bucket. But
yeah, he's at Creighton now, another wagon of a school.
There's an unquestionable, not even debatable, number one football player in the history of South Dakota State, Adam Vinatieri. Played quarterback for South Dakota State. But anyway, continue on.
I didn't know he went there. Anyway,
he did.
What was it? I don't know. What was I talking about? Dallas Goedert had to have been him. We're talking South Dakota State.
That would be the guy.
Love him for a couple reasons. Highly involved in the offense. He's a little bit behind, of course, the receivers, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. But he's still very clearly the number 3 pass catcher, very involved, and at a different price point than all of the elite receivers on the slate. So you can build a lineup with him at captain where you're still jamming in Hurts, Mahomes, Kelsey, and you can still be pretty contrarian when you do it. He allows a ton of roster flexibility, and he has an awesome projection to go along with it. He kind of fits every single box I'm looking for. Plus, he's not as owned as he should be, in my opinion. Our tools bear that out too, so I'm with you. I'm well over the field on him in both captain and utility. I will also be having a terrible day if Goedert does not perform well.
Yep. I'm right there with you. Other ancillary tight end options. I don't have a ton of these guys. It's a large field tournament thing. Noah Gray makes sense. Blake Bell is probably not going to be playing football today, more than likely. Jody Fortson was activated. He was the guy last time. Calcaterra, what in the world? I can't. Thank you, Calcaterra. There's a Mark Calcavecchio who played golf once upon a time. I looked at his name and it just made my brain malfunction. But either way, any other ancillary tight end option you're actually going to be getting to today?
Yeah, Calcaterra, pride of SMU. Love him.
Oh, my
there.
Lord, I love you. I'm going to miss that. If there's anything I miss about our shows between now and September, it is surely the fact that you got it on lock, man. You know everybody.
Jack Stoll, pride of Nebraska. I think both those guys are worth mentioning. Stoll plays a ton, but he blocks almost 90% of the time. And anytime he does have a route, I'm not sure it's designed. He's a big towering man, basically a 6th offensive lineman. But we've seen those guys score on occasion. I think you could throw them into your Millie Maker style builds, and it needs to be probably 100,000 people in your tournament or more to consider these guys. Calcaterra is actually a receiving tight end. He played at SMU, which is essentially a 4 wide receiver scheme, and he was playing the slot receiver there. So he functions a little bit more like Dallas Goedert, but I think he's firmly the backup. You'd probably need like a Goedert injury for him to get more than just 1 or 2 snaps.
I would agree with that. So we're under the assumption not a lot of tight end interest outside.
I have some Noah Gray. I think Noah Gray.
Okay.
He plays a fair amount. And I mean, he's volatile. He's going to be maybe between like 30 to 40% of the snaps optimistically. And if one of his targets happens to be near the end zone, that's where you're really making your money, like a 1-yard touchdown, or maybe Casey runs that sort of like shovel pass to the tight end where they almost are like a ball carrier. If he gets one of those, like Blake Bell's had those, we've had other backup tight ends in the past get those for Kansas City. You're kind of looking for a play like that with Noah Gray. But he's also leverage off like anyone who's considering CEH. Maybe if Justin Watson comes into a little more owned than we think, this could be something we talk about.
All right, we're going to round it out with kicker and defense. Hit the like button. All 1.5K of all of you beautiful, beautiful humans out there in the world who have been tuning into these shows all season long. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you for watching Matt, for watching myself. You're watching me be goofy a lot of the time, for having Jordan Klein be as important as what he is to the team. We just thank you all for just being here, for being able to talk through and giving us a platform, being able to give us a job to talk through NFL slates. Can't say thank you enough. It's probably why I said thank you 48 times just now, but it's true. That's the way that I feel. Let's go to kicker and defense. But first, we got our guy EMAC here in the chat. Eric McPherson. Lovable man. He wants to know what to use a 3K risk-free bet on. Very, very curious. I mean, Patrick Mahomes throw pick would be fantastic. But do you have anything that you would specifically want to have him target with a 3K? We got Richie Mack in the chat. 3K free bet in play for him.
My favorite is the Jalen Hurts prop that we talked about before. Yeah. So I won't belabor that. That's one I bet personally with my own hard-earned money. And it's hard to get money down here in Wisconsin, but I found it, got it, took it.
Well done. We talked about jamming kickers. I love kickers in a dome in a high total football game. Jake Elliott, Harrison Butker, give me a lot of both. I don't really have a priority. I have more Jake Elliott right now in builds, but I love getting to props around the board. There are places you can find 3 or more field goals for them. I would partake in those props today. How do you feel about kickers today?
Love kickers, playing a ton of them. And I kind of ran this back using our lineup generator. I wanted to see how contrarian these players were going to be. Our ownership suggests that they will be. And I think that's probably the case on a slate where we're expecting more casual play. If everybody's going to be jamming Kadarius Toney, Justin Watson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I'm going to try to find a way to get to kickers instead. They have surefire roles, playing inside, and we've seen Super Bowls played like this, low-scoring Super Bowls. And if you guys have played showdown slates all year, you know it's pretty easy for kickers to end up optimal if game script gets a little bit contrarian to what we expect. I don't really have a strong preference between them. I think they're both talented. Our ownership has Elliott being a little under-owned, so I have more of him, but we're talking splitting hairs again.
Easiest way that you can build some of those contrarian lineups, go to the lineup generator at Stokastic. Just fire that thing up. It is so good. So quick, so easy. You can put in NFL lineup generator, take the down 6 points for each one of those, have this game be a little bit lower scoring, and you are going to like what that thing comes out with. I have a lot of those lineups fired up for today. So lineup generator, you can build up to 20 of those, save them, partake with them. Is just really cool stuff. So if you head to the lineup generator, I think that's a great way to jump over to defense, because when you go to that DraftKings and you do it based in tournaments where you have balanced lineups or chalkier lineups where you take -6 for both Philly and Kansas City, you end up with those defenses quite a bit. And you can always discard the ones that don't have that. So it makes it quick and easy. Such an easy way to build lineups for today's slate. So go check that out. But defenses, how you feeling about those to round out our show and to round our football season here at Stokastic?
From a raw projection and intuitive perspective, not great. Totals 50. We have Mahomes versus Hurts. I mean, 2 MVP candidates. So with all that said, I think they still provide leverage, because I'm not the only one with that opinion. If you're playing large field tournaments, 50,000 entries, 100,000 entries or more, you can gain a ton of leverage by using these defenses. And a lot of times they can succeed while the quarterbacks and skill position players succeed as well. A pick 6 or an interception that results in a score isn't necessarily a bad thing for your skill position players. Oftentimes the team that threw the interception or had the fumble gets the ball back, and then they're in a position where they need to be more aggressive in order to score. So I like mixing them in quite a bit, especially when they're in situations like today where we have 2 teams full of stars on offense that people will be trying to jam.
So good. But guys, that's it. That is the 2022-23 Stokastic NFL DFS season. Thank you to No House Advantage. Phenomenal site. Giving you guys crazy overlay all season long. Give them a thank you by signing up, checking out their Super Bowl product today. Still, lots of entries that you can jump in over at No House Advantage. So do that. We have the BetMGM deal. You can sign up using promo code PLATINUMSUB. Check that out. Everything's in the video description box below. Makes it quick and easy. But thank you to Jordan Klein. And I already did my send-off, so I'm going to turn it over to my friend, the tuna fish extraordinaire himself, Matt Gajewski, to round out our season. Any final words for the people, my dude?
Thank you guys for being here all season long. Can't tell you how much I appreciate being able to do this as a career and come out here and you guys actually listen to what Eric and I have to say and everyone else with their team. We are very fortunate to do what we do. Hope you guys enjoy the game. make some money today. And hopefully you stick around, try some other sports. Eric, you're covering everything left and right on the platform. I'll be doing XFL and college basketball in the next couple of weeks and through the spring. So make sure to check those out. But otherwise, thank you, everybody. Seeing some nice chats and some funny chats. Appreciate those as well.
Chug a Four Loco. If only you had one. So sitting right there by the desk. You should have one on cue all the time.
I do have one on my desk.
Chug to round it out.
We didn't get enough likes.
Hit the like button, everybody, and he'll chug as we get out of here. Thank you to Jordan Klein. Thank you to No House Advantage. Matt Gajewski, do it.
No.
Okay. I tried. It's enjoyable. Anticlimactic. Final score?
27-24 Philadelphia.
37-34 Philadelphia.
Oh.
I was kidding. No, that's the script. That's the script from the people. Remember? If that score actually happens, I'm going to flip. I think it's going to be 31-10 Eagles.
Ooh.
I think murder is incoming. I did. I just see this being murder. But either way, I'm going to build DFS lineups like there's no tomorrow. Lots of Eagles onslaught. Going to be wild. But thank you. We're out of here. He's Matt. I'm Eric. See you next year.